Warrior Lore. Chapter 2258. The first to rush into the battle was naturally Jean Xian. As the Valley Lord of Rooster Crow Mountain, Jean Xian also had a flying sword in his hand. The flying sword was about a foot long and was held in his hand. Seeing a third-grade swordsman urging his flying sword to fly towards him, Jean Xian waved his hand and a sword shadow whizzed out from the flying sword, slashing straight at that person. Haha! How dare you wave your flying sword in front of me, a swordsman? Are you stupid? The swordsman laughed. His flying sword was like frost, sealing on the sword shadow. The sword shadow froze in midair like snow. With a sound, the swordsman's flying sword spun rapidly and the sword shadow shattered into pieces, falling to the ground. At the same time, the swordsman's flying sword did not seem to stop. With a natural leap, like a nimble swallow, it swept across the air and stabbed towards Jean Xian's eyes in the blink of an eye. Hiss! Jean Xian took a deep breath. He was considered good at using flying swords, but he knew that he could not drive his flying sword so fast. This was not a problem with his strength, but the fundamental difference in the cultivation of flying swords. However, Jean Xian was not nervous at all. When the swordsman's flying sword came closer, he waved his hand and the inconspicuous flying sword drew a beautiful arc in midair, slashing right at the swordsman's flying sword. With a crisp coched sound, the swordsman's flying sword was like a venomous snake that was hit on its head, stopping in midair. Not only that, Jean Xian's sword only paused slightly above the swordsman's flying sword, then slid down again. That crisp sound was from a crack on the flying sword. Ah! The swordsman turned pale with fright. With a poo sound, a mouthful of blood gushed out from his mouth, turning his face yellow. A swordsman's flying sword was refined by the primordial spirit. When the flying sword was damaged, the swordsman's primordial spirit would naturally be damaged as well. With the sword essence flowing in reverse, the swordsman was instantly injured. You! The sword cultivator looked at Jean Xian in shock. But before he could see clearly what was wrong with Jean Xian's flying sword, an indescribable burning force came from all around him. Moreover, there was a strong restrictive force within the heat. It was Jean Xian who had tossed out a few hidden yellow talismans while the sword cultivator was controlling his flying sword. Taking advantage of the fact that the sword cultivator was shocked and injured, Jean Xian sneered when he saw the flames rising around the sword cultivator. He tossed out his flying sword and attacked the sword cultivator. At the same time, his hands moved continuously and various offensive dermic arts rained down like hailstones. At this moment, the sword cultivator's weakness was exposed. The sword cultivator hurriedly retracted his flying sword in an attempt to block Jean Xian's flying sword. At the same time, he spat out a small sword from his mouth and attacked the spells like a swimming fish. However, it only managed to break through less than half of the spells and talismans. With a rumbling sound, the sword cultivator was surrounded by a ball of flames. In just a moment, a miserable scream came from the ball of flames, and a charred corpse fell from the sky. Go! Seeing this, Jean Xian waved his hand and the storage bag on the corpse fell into his hand. Without stopping, he leaped up and flew towards another sword cultivator, who only had the cultivation of the sword gestation realm. There was almost no suspense. The young sword cultivator's flying sword was broken by Jean Xian in just one round. Even his body was cut in half. The Tai green light was indeed the connate gold chi. Its sharpness was extraordinary. Looking at Han Bing again, she was also very sharp. Although she still had the bamboo joint in her hand, her opponent was not the sword cultivator from yesterday. The bamboo joint rolled and flowed down like a continuous river. The sword cultivator's flying sword broke through one after another, but there seemed to be no end to it. The sword cultivator's forehead was covered in sweat. The sword energy in his body had been greatly depleted. Kill! Hearing Han Bing's angry roar, the sword cultivator was shocked. Indeed, Han Bing's bamboo joint suddenly expanded and absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Like a huge tree, it struck down from the sky. The whistling sound of the wind was extremely sharp, and it hit the sword cultivator's forehead. Go! The sword cultivator did not retreat. He formed a sword seal, and his flying sword also expanded. Like an iron awl, it rushed into the air and pierced through. With a poof, the bamboo joint was easily broken by the flying sword. The flying sword pierced into the bamboo joint. However, Han Bing did not seem to be depressed. Instead, there was a trace of a smile on her face. Oh no! The sword cultivator was stunned and immediately came to his senses. However, he was still too late. With a poof, an inch-long sword tip pierced through the sword cultivator's sword energy defense and protruded from his chest. There was still fresh blood on the tip of the sword. How is this possible? The sword cultivator lowered his head and looked at the bright red sword tip. With an incredulous voice, he fell from the sky. Hee, the sword cultivator's attack is extremely powerful, but how can it compare to the Dao sect's tactics? Han Bing looked at the sword cultivator's corpse and sneered. All I need to do is break your flying sword. What else do you have to rely on? Of course, this was easy to say but difficult to do. Along with the sword cultivator's corpse that Han Bing killed, the corpses of several Rooster Mountain disciples also fell. None of the corpses of these disciples were intact. All of them had broken arms and legs. There were even a few corpses that were broken into several pieces. That's right. How could an ordinary cultivator's Dharma artifact have the Tai Azure Light? How could an ordinary cultivator have more than 2 Dharma artifacts? These Rooster Mountain disciples activated their Dharma artifacts with great momentum and attacked the sword cultivator like a tidal wave crashing onto the shore. The sword cultivator's flying sword was like a ray of light. It was like a huge craggy rock that stood in the middle of the tidal wave. It was sharp and sturdy. Under the crashing of the tidal wave, there were only splashes and craggy rocks left. The Dharma artifacts of many Rooster Mountain cultivators had only flown a few feet before they were slashed apart by the flying sword. Waves of brilliance flashed repeatedly and countless Dharma artifacts fell in a riot. After the Dharma artifacts, it was naturally the sharp flying sword that attacked the cultivators in the blink of an eye. The sword light was eerie and like patches of autumn light. It killed the cultivators who were flying in midair like falling leaves. Fresh blood was like the frost in autumn leaves, burning the sky. In less than half a cup of tea's time, more than 20 Rooster Mountain disciples had already died under the flying sword. Although Jean Xian had just killed several sword cultivators, he was still very anxious when he saw such a situation. According to Jean Xian's thoughts, he had already clearly instructed his disciples. These disciples were not inexperienced in fighting. First, he would let them get used to fighting. Then, he would let them form a formation and use a combined attack to deal with the sword cultivators. But who would have thought? The moment they made contact, the Rooster Mountain disciples collapsed. They had long forgotten about their previous training. Even an Chi refinement disciple from 7 Skills sect had died in the fight. Left with no choice, Jean Xian waved his sleeve. With a loud bang, a signal flew into the sky. Jean Xian had no choice but to send out the signal that they had agreed on. This signal was sent an entire hour earlier than expected. When the people of Rooster Crow Mountain saw the signal rise into the sky, they immediately felt a chill in their hearts. All the disciples naturally flew up and scanned the surrounding disciples with their divine senses. A dozen or so disciples with similar cultivations gathered together and formed a rather orderly formation. Once the formation was formed, these disciples similarly activated their Fali in an extremely rhythmic manner. All kinds of magic tools rose up at the same time and smashed towards the sword cultivators in front of them without prior agreement. Similar waves of magic power converged together. The strength of the various Dharma artifacts and scattered light condensed into one place. Immediately, the uneven attacks from before became one. The attack power of the Chi refinement disciples was close to that of the Foundation establishment disciples, while the attack power of the early Foundation establishment disciples was close to that of the middle Foundation establishment disciples. In an instant, on the entire battlefield, 30 to 40 such formations launched the most powerful attack of the Rooster Mountain. Ha ha ha, Jean Xian laughed loudly. The flying sword in his hand also flew out as he shouted, "My Rooster Mountain will declare war on the sword cultivators today. Let's see what the sword cultivators are capable of." As you wish. Before Jean Xian's shout could even land, a flying sword that was as bright as the sun soared into the sky. When the sword cultivators saw the flying sword, they quickly retreated and quickly pulled apart the distance between themselves and the Rooster Mountain disciples. Then, just like the Rooster Mountain cultivators, the swordsmen in all kinds of clothing formed a team, forming dozens of teams. Although the number of people in each team was different, when the flying swords of these swordsmen flew out at the same time, the flying swords had different styles and power. They could condense into dozens of huge flying swords that were similarly incomparably fast, with the same piercing sound of the wind and the same flashing sword light. They also attacked the Dharma artifacts of the Rooster Mountain disciples. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Almost continuous sounds rang out, causing the entire Crow Rooster Mountain to tremble. The might of the air waves caused the snowflakes on the ground to gradually rise, and layers of snow white covered the horizon. After the Dharma artifacts clashed, there were screams. Some of the flying swords were not as good as the Dharma artifacts, and some of the Dharma artifacts were not as good as the flying swords. Regardless of the situation, blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the snow mist into a bloody mist. The bloody mist ignited the sky on one side of the Rooster Mountain. The flowers of blood were like flames again. The battle was so intense that the smell of blood had already permeated the entire battlefield. Cui Hongshan and the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect were also facing tremendous pressure. There were only 10 disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, and they flew out late, so they were slightly off from the main battlefield. The ones facing them were also a few low-level swordsmen and those with pregnant swords. At this moment, Cui Hongshan was flying at the very front. The 2 thunder pearls danced in front of him like dancing notes. Seeing the flying sword of a swordsman with a drawn sword flickering with traces of blood as it flew over, he did not dare to be careless. As he activated the Dharma seal, the thunder pearls collided, producing a bolt of lightning that quickly struck the flying sword. Lightning was the nemesis of flying swords. The bolt of lightning instantly swallowed the entire flying sword, and traces of electricity lingered around the flying sword. The body of the swordsman in the distance trembled rapidly, and the expression on his face was extremely ugly. Attack! Cui Hongshan was overjoyed. He activated the thunder pearls again and flew towards the swordsman, wanting to take the opportunity to kill him. However, the swordsman's hand formed another Dharma seal, and the brilliance on the flying sword shone brightly. It actually swallowed the entire bolt of lightning, and the flying sword flew up again, piercing towards Cui Hongshan's body. -8. Chapter 22:59. Pa. Cui Hongshan hurriedly pointed his finger, and one of the lightning beads suddenly flew back to defend, hitting the flying sword. The flying sword's tip was knocked askew, and it brushed past Cui Hongshan's shoulder, while the lightning bead also flew askew into the air. Don't think of leaving. Deity Chiming was standing guard not far behind Cui Hongshan. Seeing that Cui Hongshan was almost in danger, he anxiously threw the lightning bottle in his hand into the air. Several lightning bolts struck the flying sword. That flying sword was like a bird struck by lightning, suddenly falling from the sky. Before it could fall half a foot, it turned into fragments. Not to mention the sword cultivator, even Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. No one expected that Deity Chiming's lightning bottle would have such power. The swordsman's flying sword was shattered, and he was seriously injured. He hastily retreated. Where are you going? Su Qing immediately waved her fire-controlling fan, and a raging flame rushed towards the swordsman. The other swordsman beside the swift swordsman also pointed his finger, and a raging flame like flying sword rushed over, blocking the flames of the fire-controlling fan. Therefore, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect also forgot about the joint attack technique at the beginning of the battle and started to fight on their own. Xiao Hua's opponent was a second-grade swordsman. He was majestic and powerful, and his flying sword was also unique. It was like a brass mace that flew up to smash people. Xiao Hua didn't mind. He flew very slowly. His hands were either holding incantations or yellow talismans. He didn't take out any magic tools or magic treasures, but these incantations and yellow talismans were incomparably sharp. Every time at the critical moment, they would rescue Xiao Hua from the swordsman's flying sword. Xiao Hua's acting was very good, and he looked to be in an abnormally difficult situation. This slowly incited the anger of the swordsman. Clearly, a flying sword could smash him to death, but he was always a step away. Even after another strike, he still couldn't be smashed to death. Dui Ling's lightning seal and Zhan Hua's thunder trapping bead were also useful. Each of them faced two sword-nurturing cultivators. Although there were occasional dangers, they were generally scared but not in danger. Before Zhan Xian sent out the signal, the corner where the thunder-controlling sect was fighting had actually been evenly matched and hadn't suffered any losses. However, after Zhan Xian's signal and the sword cultivator's signal were sent out, the opponents of the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples also began to form a formation. Furthermore, the swordsmen who were previously fighting with the disciples of the Rooster Crow Mountain around the Imperial Thunder Sect also began to gather towards this side. Cui Hongshan did not dare to dawdle and hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, listen to my command. Form a team." Yes. All the disciples hurriedly got out of their respective fights and flew up into the air, one higher than the other. "Xiao Hua, don't you have some kind of magic weapon? Why aren't you using it?" Seeing Xiao Hua flying alone beside everyone, Cui Hongshan berated. "Even if you can't protect everyone, you have to protect yourself first." Actually, Xiao Hua originally wanted to take out the cloud-suppressing seal. His hand was already stretched out, but when he heard Cui Hongshan's urging, he rolled his eyes and said, "That transcendent artifact will consume my transcendence energy. Let's wait first." "Wait, wait," Cui Hongshan angrily said. "Wait until you lose your life." However, at this moment, the 20 or so flying swords on the opposite side actually attacked at the same time. The huge flying swords that were formed let out a rumbling sound. Before the swords even reached their bodies, the sword intent had already enveloped them. A kind of austere, a kind of cold, a kind of ruthlessness, and a kind of bloodiness enveloped the bodies and minds of the 10 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. Good, good. It's indeed powerful. Xiao Hua smacked his lips and slowly took out the cloud-suppressing seal. However, he still held it in his hand and did not take it out. "Fight!" Cui Hongshan's eyes revealed a resolute look. He clapped his hands and actually took out 4 lightning pearls. Each of them flashed with lightning when they collided, forming a rhombus shape to attack the huge, flying swords. Following closely behind was Dui Qiming's lightning bottle. At this moment, the lightning bottle was already flashing with lightning, as if a heavenly lightning had been taken out. After that was Zhan Minghui's lightning brick. The lightning brick had already been pushed to the limit by Zhen Minghui. It was a full 10 feet in size, green and red in color, and had the strength of 1,000 caddies. After the lightning brick, it was Su Qing who was on the second floor. Her imperial fire fan was fanned until it turned red. A red flame like a fire dragon spiraled above the lightning brick. As it swam, it absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and pounced towards the huge swords. Zhan Hua's thunder-trapping pearl was the most inconspicuous. Streaks of lightning seeped out and followed the fire dragon. It was like a fire dragon playing with a pearl, flying towards the huge swords without any hesitation. Chiu Su's fire-congealing pillar was the most dazzling at this moment. A huge pillar of fire seemed to be able to support the heavens and earth. It was also like a collapsed volcano. From top to bottom, it smashed towards the huge swords. The pooh-hoo sound of the wind was enough to make people tremble in fear. Ming Mu's lightning whip was a treasure for close combat. At this moment, it was somewhat lacking. However, the lightning whip was like a spirit snake dancing in the air. It also emitted a foot-long lightning and attacked the sword cultivator with the fire-congealing pillar. On the other hand, Dui Ling, who had the weakest cultivation, pushed the thunder seal, which was similar to the cloud-suppressing seal, to the extreme. Although it wasn't as big as Zhan Minghui's lightning brick, it was still very aggressive. It followed closely behind and attacked the swordsman. The Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples' combined attack technique was a huge bolt of lightning surrounded by flames. It directly faced the sword cultivator's huge swords. Rumble, ka-cha-cha, crisp sounds like beans being fried were heard. The lightning struck the flying swords and destroyed the entire flying swords. The 9 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples' faces turned red at the same time. Their blood and chi surged, and their meridians were damaged. Looking at the 20 or so swordsmen on the opposite side, other than a few disciples with shallow cultivation who had their flying swords destroyed, the other swordsmen didn't have any major injuries. They only needed to adjust their breathing a little before flying up again. After all, it was 9 against 20. The Imperial Thunder Sect disciples were no match for them in terms of cultivation or numbers. Seeing this, Xiao Hua's heart slightly relaxed. Just now, his flying sword was already in his mouth. He wanted to save whoever he saw in danger. He didn't expect the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples' foundation to be so solid. None of them were injured. Let's form a circle, Xiao Hua suggested in a low voice. Okay. Cui Hongshan's magic power was somewhat lacking. His limit was 4 thunder pearls. Just now, he had overdrawn his true essence. He couldn't use 4 thunder pearls as he pleased. Therefore, he agreed without hesitation. Seeing the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples forming a circle with their backs against each other, the swordsmen were happy. Weren't they preparing to be beaten? Therefore, they stopped their formation and each of them urged their flying swords to surround the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples and attack them one after another. In just a moment, Dui Ling was surrounded by danger. She was relatively unlucky. In front of her was a drawn sword swordsman who bullied the weak. Although the drawn sword swordsman was a first-grade drawn sword swordsman, it was more than enough to kill Dui Ling. Fortunately, there was a group of Imperial Thunder Sect disciples surrounding Dui Ling occasionally. They helped Dui Ling block the power of the flying sword. Thus, she was able to hold on for half a cup of tea's time. At this moment, the thunder seal was sent flying by the water-like flying sword. The remaining water flow was like a flying sword as it rapidly pierced towards Dui Ling's towering chest. Dui Ling's face unconsciously turned ashen. That flying sword was so fast that she didn't have time to use her yellow talisman. Moreover, she knew in her heart that her yellow talisman couldn't block this water flow. Beside Dui Ling were Ming Mao and Jin Hua. Each of them had their own opponents to contend with and were similarly unable to provide assistance. The two of them were also very anxious. For some reason, Dui Ling naturally turned his head before he died. He actually looked at the back of the person facing him. An indescribable feeling arose. Dui Ling. Cui Hongshan's divine perception was constantly covering the 9 people. When he saw this situation, he also felt helpless. His opponent was a drawing sword grade 3rd grade, which was slightly higher than him. He could only silently recite Dui Ling's name in his heart and retract his divine perception. He didn't dare to see the first female cultivator in his team fall. But at this moment, a strange thing happened. The sword cultivator, with a sinister smile on his face, suddenly held his head in his hands and suddenly fell from the sky. The water-like flying sword that no one was controlling also stopped in midair. It was pressing against Dui Ling's chest. Ming Mao was ecstatic. With a wave of her hand, a thunder-light talisman shot out. It hit the water-like flying sword and sent it flying. I didn't die. Dui Ling turned his head in disbelief and looked at Ming Mao. Martial Ant Ming Mao, you saved me? It wasn't me. Ming Mao was about to answer, but the opponent was too anxious. She didn't have time to explain. She only pointed at the falling sword cultivator and said, "Kill him." Yes. Dui Ling answered casually and pointed his finger. The thunder strike chased after the falling sword cultivator. Of course, there were other sword cultivators in the surroundings. They urged their flying swords to block Dui Ling's thunder strike and fought with Dui Ling. What's going on? Cui Hongshan was baffled by the fact that he didn't hear any screams and that Dui Ling was fighting with the sword cultivator. But not long after, the same strange thing happened again. However, this time, it happened to Zhen Hua. It was almost the same as Dui Ling. Just as Zhen Hua was in danger, his opponent hugged his head and obediently fell from midair. He missed the opportunity to kill Zhen Hua. Cui Hongshan was flabbergasted. Who? Where did this cowardly junior come from? He actually hides in the dark to hurt people? Cui Hongshan wasn't the only one who was baffled. The sword cultivators surrounding the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples were also baffled. Their spiritual senses and flying swords rapidly scanned their surroundings, trying to find the ambushing cultivator. Kill. Cui Hongshan didn't give them a chance. He urged his artifact and led the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples to attack. This time, the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples' courage was somewhat bolstered. They didn't hold back at all and killed the swordsman in a moment. Damn it, this feels great. Cui Hongshan had never felt so comfortable before. We'll take this opportunity to kill our way out of the encirclement. Hurry up and run for your lives. Xiao Hua's words sounded again at an inappropriate time. You only know how to run. Cui Hongshan said coldly. Where's your artifact? Still not taking it out? I lost it. Xiao Hua's words almost angered Cui Hongshan to the point that he fell from midair. How could an artifact be lost? However, fortunately, Cui Hongshan didn't ask. Otherwise, Xiao Hua would have definitely made him ask Daoist Jingru. That guy would have grabbed Cui Hongshan's hand and answered him with sincerity. Let alone a magic weapon. Even a life source magic weapon could be lost. -8. Chapter 2260. Seeing that Cui Hongshan did not want to leave and was still thinking about the bet with Han Bing from Seven Skills Sect, Xiao Hua coldly attacked his confidence. Look at the front of Chicken Crow Mountain. How many disciples are still alive? Don't forget, this is only the sword cultivators from one side. If the sword cultivators from the other three sides all come, we will definitely die. That's right. Cui Hongshan's heart quivered. He waved his hand and said, Let's go. We will fight and retreat. At the same time that Cui Hongshan decided to escape, Han Bing and Zhang Xian also made a decision. They had already found out that the sword cultivators were here for the primordial mother of gold and would definitely not let them escape. They naturally had to return to Chicken Crow Mountain and make the second step of their plan. They would make proper arrangements for the primordial mother of gold and then escape. Zhang Xian and Han Bing scanned the area with their divine senses and saw that the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect were slowly moving towards the outside. Both of them revealed a sinister smile. Zhang Xian made a prompt decision and waved his hand. Another scarlet flame shot up into the sky. This was the signal for all disciples to retreat. Once the Chicken Crow Mountain disciples left and the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples were left behind, would they still have a chance to survive? Seeing the scarlet flame flying into the air, the Chicken Crow Mountain disciples were relieved. They all tried their best to break away from the battle and flew towards the restriction of Chicken Crow Mountain. However, at this moment, an earth-shattering sword cry sounded from the north of Chicken Crow Mountain. It was extremely far before, but in an instant, it was right in front of them. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Clang, clang, clang. On the battlefield, all the flying swords broke free from the swordsman's hands and flew straight into the air. Countless sword lights flew up, and countless sword cries combined with the huge sword cries. It was actually the posture of 10,000 swords worshipping the ancestor. Han Bing, Zhang Xian, Cui Hongshan, and the others were all shocked. They looked at the distant horizon in confusion. They saw an extremely gorgeous rainbow streak across the sky. An incomparably huge flying general flashed in the air. At the same time, an unparalleled sword intent enveloped the entire Chicken Crow Mountain. The strength of a nascent soul. No one knew the power of this sword intent better than Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua shrunk his neck and quietly returned the magic treasure that he had just taken out of the space. He suppressed his magic power to the early stage of foundation establishment and obediently stood there like everyone else. It was a foolish appearance of being controlled by the sword intent. Greetings, Senior Hua Jian. The group of sword cultivators stood in the air and bowed in unison. The flying swords also hummed in unison and trembled slightly, as if they were also paying respect to the huge sword. The giant sword stood in the air and gradually turned into the appearance of an old man. The old man's face was scarlet red, and his gaze was like a sword. With a slight turn of his eyes, he could actually see the entire Chicken Crow Mountain. Xiao Hua's body involuntarily felt a chill, and goosebumps rose all over his body. Inside the Buddha fire, the Dream Slayer was also struggling, as if it wanted to compete with the giant sword. My young master, are you tired of living? Xiao Hua's primordial spirit inside the flying sword sensed the flying sword's unwillingness. He was very anxious and almost wanted to say, "Don't fight now. Just obediently stay here. One day, when this daddy also turns into a sword, I'll bring you out to show off." As if it heard Xiao Hua's inner voice, the Dream Slayer obediently fell into the immeasurable karmic fire. Useless thing. A loud sound like swords clashing rang out. You almost ruined this old man's great matter. There are only so many cultivators on Chicken Crow Mountain, so why are you still surrounding the mountain? Just kill them all. As he spoke, the old man disappeared again, and the giant sword appeared in the air again. Moreover, the giant sword slowly waved, as if it was controlled by an invisible hand. The spirit chi of heaven and earth within a few miles of the Chicken Crow Mountain swirled and landed on the strike of the giant sword. Xiao Hua felt as if his eyes were dazzled. The giant sword seemed to be moving yet not. In almost the blink of an eye, the giant sword flew up again and the old man's figure appeared again. At this moment, a series of earth-shaking rumbles appeared. The entire Rooster Crow Mountain was shaking. Over 1,000 swordsmen had attacked the formation for a day and a night, but they couldn't break through the restriction at all. Now, under Laozi's sword attack, it was actually split open. The sword intent of the huge sword hadn't even dissipated. It deeply cut into the Rooster Crow Mountain, revealing a huge hole that was several zhang long. Good boy. This is the strength of a sword transformation. This young master can't compare. Xiao Hua shrunk his neck again and didn't say anything. With the restriction broken, Chicken Crow Mountain was like a woman whose clothes were cut off, revealing all kinds of secrets. Sure enough, it was barren and there wasn't a single person in sight. Looking at the sword transformation old man again, a light appeared in his hand and a sword seal struck Chicken Crow Mountain. Coincidentally, it was the cave that Xiao Hua snuck into yesterday. Wong. Another violent sound was heard. It was as if Sunset Island had emerged from the bottom of the sea. A giant sword shadow slowly came out from Chicken Crow Mountain. Ah! Flying sword. The giant sword shadow had yet to fully reveal itself. It was incomparably cold and sharp, and its sharpness filled the entire Chicken Crow Mountain. It was the sword intent that suddenly appeared when Xiao Hua collected the innate mother of gold last night. Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization. This Chicken Crow Mountain was not only the place where Qiqiao sect refined their flying swords, it was also the place where Huan country's sword cultivators buried their swords. Moreover, looking at the giant flying sword that slowly flew out and the dense Tai azure light on it, Xiao Hua knew that this flying sword had an incredible origin. When the sword transformation old man reached out his hand, the flying sword fell into his hand like a pool of autumn water. A hint of joy flashed in the old man's eyes, and he casually waved his hand. A flash of azure light appeared. It was completely silent, and a mountaintop of Chicken Crow Mountain was sliced off. Ha ha ha! The Tai azure light sword indeed lives up to its reputation. The sword-wielding old man raised his head and let out a long howl. However, when his divine sense entered the Crow Foul Mountain, he let out a cold snort and pointed his finger. The people of the Crow Foul Mountain actually foiled my plans. Kill them all. After saying that, his entire body transformed into a sword and suddenly flew up, heading towards the north. After the sword transformation old man left, the situation of the entire Chicken Crow Mountain changed drastically. The sword cultivators who were guarding the three sides of Chicken Crow Mountain no longer had any misgivings. They all roared, and the flying swords beneath their feet shone brilliantly. They flew past the empty Chicken Crow Mountain and charged towards Zhang Xian, Han Bing, and the others. Han Bing had originally sent out the signal to return to the mountain. All the Chicken Crow Mountain disciples had retreated from the battle, and their formation had already scattered. Under the sword transformation old man's sword intent, no one dared to move recklessly. At this moment, when they heard that he was going to kill them all, their minds were already in a mess. Their gazes or divine sense swept past, and like scattered flies, They flew towards the gaps that the sword cultivators had yet to close. Assemble, assemble. How could Jean Xian not know that there was no other outcome other than being killed one by one in this chaos? At the same time as he shouted, he sent another signal into the air. Obviously, this signal was not given in advance. When the group of Chicken Crow Mountain disciples saw this, some of them stopped and looked at the signal in the sky in a daze, guessing Jean Xian's intentions. However, some disciples did not care at all. Their figures did not stop, and they quickly flew past the crowd. Seeing some disciples fly away, the disciples who stopped also followed suit. They activated their magic power and continued to flee. Seeing that the entire scene was so chaotic, with only a small number of core disciples stopping and gathering around him, Jean Xian sighed. He knew that the situation was hopeless. He called out to the crowd, "Get into formation. We will quickly kill our way out." Seeing the disciples quickly get into formation, Jean Xian turned to look at Han Bing. He wanted to call the 7 Skills sect disciples to break out of the encirclement together. However, when he turned to look at Han Bing's actions, he was so angry that his nose almost went crooked. Needless to say, Han Bing's actions were faster than his. She had already taken out the flowing cloud-flying ship. The remaining 9 7 Skills sect disciples had already boarded the flying ship. Under Han Bing's control, the flowing cloud-flying ship had already flown more than 100 feet. It was about to rush to the edge of the encirclement of the sword cultivators. Go! A desolation of monkeys scattering when the tree topples spontaneously arose in Jean Xian's heart. However, Jean Xian did not have the time to experience such feelings. He quickly ordered his disciples to get into formation. They took out their magic tools and other items. They formed a triangle and flew in the direction where the number of sword cultivators was thinned out. As for Cui Hongshan and company, they were no different from the Chicken Crow Mountain disciples. When the sword cultivator old man appeared, their faces were pale. The quintessential essence in their bodies could not flow at all. They could barely maintain their flying posture in midair. When the sword cultivator old man flew away, they immediately felt relieved and instinctively flew away from Chicken Crow Mountain. When he saw Cui Hongshan fleeing in panic, Xiaohua felt disdain. He thought to himself, the disciples of a cultivation aristocratic family are nothing more than this. How can they compare to us itinerant cultivators? However, he could not help but remind them. He berated them, "Don't rush, get into formation, or you will all die." His voice was extremely loud. It did not contain any magic power, so it did not cause people to think, nor did it cause them to fall from midair. However, it was still heard by everyone. Everyone was stunned. They hastily turned their heads to look back. Fortunately, the Imperial Thunder sect only had 10 disciples. Apart from Xiaohua, who was still flying slowly and fell several zhang, and Cui Hongshan and Dui Qiming, who were rushing in the same direction, the other 6 disciples also broke through the encirclement, but they had scattered. Crisis was indeed the best experience to test one's heart. Cui Hongshan raised his eyes again and looked at the swordsman rushing over like a tide. He let out a long sigh and said, "Disciples, we are the first team of the Imperial Thunder sect. Now, even if we are facing death, we must die a worthy death. We cannot lose the face of our Imperial Thunder sect. We must make the sword cultivators of Huan country laugh at us. Just now, I was panicking, but I was wrong. From today onwards, I will not leave you, junior brothers." "That's right." Zhun Minghui also shouted, "Even if we die, we, the 10 disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, will die together. Ha 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 ha. Come, come, come. Little swordsmen of Huan country, have a taste of your mother's power." Dui Ling also laughed heartily. Unexpectedly, he was extremely free and easy. He slapped his hand, and the thunder seal flew out from his storage pouch. Scattered light shot in all directions as it attacked a swordsman who was already within a few zhang of him. -8. Chapter 2261. Dui Ling. Get into formation. Cui Hongshan thought even more. With a sweep of his divine perception, he knew that the entire scene was in danger. He hastily stopped Dui Ling's impulsiveness and called for everyone to form a back-to-back formation. He and Dui Chiming were still at the front. Damn it, this is what this young master wants to say. Xiao Hua was flustered and exasperated. This was the phrase he had just thought of with great difficulty. Just as he shouted it, the rest of the phrase was completely snatched away by Cui Hongxin and Zhen Minghui. However, at this moment, who would care about him? They were all filled with sorrow as they circulated all the magic energy in their bodies. All kinds of magic tools and treasures were summoned. Not only did they cover themselves, but they also protected the nearby disciples. Tisk, Xiao Hua thought for a moment and secretly said, "Should I be so impulsive? Should I be so unafraid of death? That old fart has already left. Isn't this Chicken Crow Mountain the world of this young master? As long as the 9 of you don't run around, this young master can protect all of you." Although he thought this, Xiao Hua still clapped his hands. The cloud-suppressing seal that he hadn't summoned earlier flew out of the space. Once this cloud-suppressing seal was summoned, it immediately emitted a buzzing sound. All kinds of pearls condensed and rapidly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It emitted a bronze brilliance and protected the 10 people in one place. Of course, this brilliance was extremely thin. It seemed that as long as a sword cultivator's flying sword pierced it, it would break. Xiao Hua, don't protect us. You just need to protect yourself. Seeing this, Cui Hongxin was slightly happy. However, seeing that the brilliance of the treasures was thin, he thought that Xiao Hua's magic energy was insufficient. He immediately warned, "Your magic energy is meager. Don't bite off more than you can chew." "What do you care? I'm happy to do so." Xiao Hua unceremoniously replied to this disciple from a cultivation family. He simply didn't appreciate it. Take it or leave it. Cui Hongxin knew that he couldn't say a single word to Xiao Hua because there were many words waiting to hit him back. Go. Moreover, Cui Hongxin didn't have the time to continue wasting time with Xiao Hua. The numerous sword cultivators ahead had already approached, and their bright flying swords were either like sowing discord, fine needles, or trickling streams of water as they assaulted Cui Hongxin at the same time. Obviously, they intended to annihilate these disciples of the Imperial Lightning Sect. Kachacha, the 4 lightning pearls collided with each other, and several bolts of blue lightning were produced, all of them thrusting towards the incoming flying sword. Dui Chiming was right next to Cui Hongxin. She was very clear about Cui Hongxin's cultivation and knew that he would not be able to defend against these flying swords. However, just as she took out her lightning bottle and wanted to help Cui Hongxin, several flying swords that were not any weaker than the ones that attacked Cui Hongxin attacked her. Dui Chiming understood that if she didn't accept the challenge, not only would she die, but Ming Mao, Xiao Hua, and the rest would also be implicated. Feeling helpless, she gritted her teeth and tried her best to activate the lightning bottle. Several lightning webs flew out from the bottle's mouth and flew toward the flying swords. Needless to say, the rest of the people were also being attacked by flying swords, so they had no choice but to use all their strength to face the enemy. Only Xiao Hua was constantly waving his left and right hands, throwing out different yellow talismans one after another. Fireballs, water balls, shackles, and other yellow talismans exploded one after another, blocking the sword cultivator several zhang away. The sword cultivator's flying swords were also blocked by the cloud-suppressing seal's defensive brilliance. Just as Xiao Hua was thinking about how to escape with the 9 people, a snow-white sword light pierced through the brilliance and pierced into the cloud-suppressing seal's defensive brilliance. Courting death, Xiao Hua secretly said, and used soul stab once again. That sword cultivator suddenly fell from midair, and his flying sword also disappeared. Haha, that's great. Dui Ling, who was right next to Xiao Hua, saw that the sword cultivator had fallen, and his heart was greatly relieved. At this moment, a flame also rushed into the cloud-suppressing seal's defensive brilliance and attacked in front of Dui Ling. As expected, the sword cultivator who used the flame sword fell from midair again. My goodness, what's going on? Xiao Hua was extremely shocked as he asked, Did their brains grow buds? Hee, who knows? Dui Ling laughed and said, I reckon that the heavens saw that this concubine's beauty was peerless and couldn't bear to let this concubine fall here. That's why this swordsman was killed. Xiaohua, you can also bask in my glory. Thank you. Xiaohua curled his lips and replied in a very meaningful manner. In this way, it was very strange. Although Xiaohua's cloud-suppressing seal appeared to be a transcendent artifact used by early Foundation establishment cultivators, and its brilliance was very thin, it wasn't easy for ordinary flying swords to pierce through. When a flying sword pierced through, the swordsman who used the flying sword would inexplicably fall. After a long time, how could the swordsman not notice? While they were doing their best to kill, they also sent out disciples to search for swordsmen with high cultivation. The 10 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect were flying and fighting at the same time. They had already flown several hundred feet and gradually left the front of Chicken Crow Mountain, arriving at a remote area. Although they were surrounded by hundreds of swordsmen, if Xiaohua used his divine ability to open a path, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect should be able to escape with their lives. Just as Xiaohua was thinking of making a move, he heard a loud shout, "Fellow Taoist of the Imperial Thunder Sect, help me!" Xiaohua and the others scanned the area with their divine senses and saw that the flowing cloud-flying ship of Qiqiao Sect was flying towards them from the front of Rooster Crow Mountain. Han Bing was the only one on the ship, and behind her were dozens of 4th or 5th grade swordsmen who were on their flying swords, chasing after them aggressively. This bastard deserves to die. Seeing that Han Bing had lured over high-level swordsmen, how could Xiaohua not know what this bastard was thinking? Dozens of 5th grade swordsmen, that was dozens of Middle Foundation establishment cultivators. Their attack power was comparable to a late Foundation establishment cultivator. How could the 10 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect deal with them? Presumably, Han Bing had no other way out. Seeing that the Imperial Thunder Sect was actually able to steadily escape, he wanted to cause trouble. Although Xiaohua was not afraid of these dozens of swordsmen, he did not dare to fight with his full strength. He was afraid that the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect would be injured. This would not only cause the Imperial Thunder Sect to lose face, it would also cause Xiaohua to lose face. However, Xiaohua was only slightly angry. His divine senses landed on the flowing cloud-flying ship again. Damn it, the disciples of the 7 Skills Sect are really good. They are even more generous than the Imperial Thunder Sect. They knew that I needed a flying magic tool, so they gave me the flowing cloud-flying ship. Xiaohua made a new decision in his heart. For the sake of the flowing cloud-flying ship, I will also save you. However, Xiaohua only thought for a moment. The distance between Han Bing and the Imperial Thunder Sect was more than several hundred feet. This guy had just led the disciples of the 7 Skills Sect to escape in a different direction from the Chicken Crow Mountain and the Imperial Thunder Sect. Moreover, the flowing cloud-flying ship was extremely fast. He almost escaped. Unfortunately, he was too eye-catching. Not only was he in the middle stage of Foundation establishment, but he also had a flying magic tool. The swordsmen from the other 3 sides of the Chicken Crow Mountain naturally treated him as the first target to kill. Just as he was about to break through the swordsman's defensive line, he was intercepted by several 4th grade swordsmen. Since he was left behind, the result was needless to say. The 8 disciples of the 7 Skills Sect were all killed, and Han Bing was also injured. The most terrible thing was that the 4th and 5th grade swordsmen seemed to have their eyes on the flowing cloud-flying ship. They all flew towards Han Bing's direction, hoping to kill this guy. Therefore, if Han Bing wanted to fly over from his side, it would take some time. Just as he was about 10 feet away from the Imperial Thunder Sect, 2 sword lights, one green and one red, caught up with Han Bing from behind like 2 intertwining dragons. They only twisted around his head. Han Bing, who was panicking like a stray dog, no longer had any energy left in his meridians to activate his magic power. Under the attack of these 2 swords, the defensive brilliance only flickered slightly before it was annihilated. His head fell onto the flying ship, and his body also fell down. Only the flying ship continued to fly towards the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples due to inertia. Seeing that Han Bing was killed by the green and red swords, many swordsmen who were chasing after them slowed down their flying speed. They knew that the flowing cloud-flying ship already had an owner. However, their flying direction did not change. They still rushed towards the 10 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. At this moment, the 100 swordsmen besieging the Imperial Thunder sect also stopped, waiting for the arrival of these high-level swordsmen. The Imperial Thunder sect disciples' faces were ashen. However, Cui Hongshan flew up half a foot, turned back to Dui Qimeng, and said affectionately, "Qimeng, I used to have a dream. I hoped that I could become a famous cultivator in the Xiaoyu continent. That way, I could roar in the 9 heavens and command all the cultivators. For this dream, I left the Cui family and joined the Imperial Thunder sect. My dream in the Imperial Thunder sect is still the same, but in this dream, there is another dream. This dream is to marry you to my Myriad Thunder Valley and use our hands to restore the reputation of the Myriad Thunder Valley. We will no longer be looked down upon and ridiculed by others. However, now, before my dream even began, I am about to wake up. Not only did I fail to marry you into the Myriad Thunder Valley, but I also brought you to my mortal enemy. If it weren't for me, you would still be in Sky Patrol City and would not have fallen so early." Husband. Dui Qiming flew up and came to Cui Hongshan's side. She reached out and held his hand, smiling sweetly. Although some people dual cultivate, their hearts may not be together. Although you and I did not dual cultivate, our hearts have merged into one. This concubine cannot be your wife in this life, but even if I become a ghost, I will still be your ghost bride. In the next life, I will still dual cultivate with you. Good. Cui Hongshan tightened his hand and said, "Wife, a real man has some things to do and some things not to do. Today is the time for your husband to speak his mind. Your husband has become the leader of the first team, so I must have the awareness of a leader. Even if your husband dies, he must die before them. To be able to be accompanied by my wife before I die, I have no regrets in this life." Then, Cui Hongshan glanced at everyone and warned, "This Cui is untalented and has led all of you to a dead end. Don't blame this Cui. This Cui will now go and block those high-level sword cultivators. If you all escape in the opposite direction, you may still have a chance of survival. In addition, senior brother Minghui, this Cui's unworthy junior brother, is in your care." Then, he glanced at the green and red double swords that had already flown in front of him. Without waiting for anyone to say anything, he coldly said to Xiaohua, "Xiaohua, this Cui knows that you don't like this Cui. To be honest, this Cui is the same as you. However, since this Cui has been entrusted by Master and Master's wife, and you are this Cui's junior brother from the same sect, this Cui will definitely protect you even if it costs my life. Now that this Cui is gone, you should take care of yourself. Sometimes, don't be too willful." -8. Chapter 2262. Sigh. Cui Hongshan seemed to want to say something, but when he saw the green and red swords in front of him and the sharp sword energy cutting off the black hair on his forehead, he knew that he was no match for these two swords. Thus, he hurriedly stopped and pointed his finger. The 4 lightning beads crisscrossed and flashed with lightning to meet the green swords. Dui Qiming also hurriedly urged the lightning bottle to meet the red swords with great tacit understanding. Captain, Jin Minghui, and the others all had tears in their eyes. They really had mixed feelings in their hearts and didn't know what to say. At this moment, an unparalleled pressure came from behind them. Along with that pressure was a kind of aura that could overturn heaven and earth. That pressure and aura continued to skyrocket. A crazy hurricane was born from the center of the aura, quickly sweeping across a radius of several hundred feet. The group of swordsmen, regardless of whether they were high-grade or low-grade swordsmen, all stood in midair, unsure of what to do. Before the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples could figure out what was going on, they saw a golden light emerge from behind them. They only felt their eyes brighten, and they heard 2 crisp kacha sounds. The sword lights of the green and red dual swords, which had easily killed Hanbing and Cui Hongshan and Dui Qiming, paled in comparison to this golden light. Not only that, but the green and red swords' tips were actually cut off by the golden light. This is what I wanted to say. Why did you steal it? If you all die here, will I still have any face left? A voice that was extremely familiar to the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples rang out. However, it was lazy before, but now it was angry. You want to have a dream? Then I'll give you the chance to realize your dream right now. When everyone turned to look, they saw Xiaohua majestically flying high in the sky and forming seals with his hands. Above his head, a phoenix celestial body floated out of thin air. The scarlet phoenix celestial body spread its wings for more than 300 feet. When the wings flapped, there was the sound of wind and thunder. Under the phoenix celestial body, blue lightning flashed with sharp claws. That aura, that pressure, it was released from this phoenix celestial body. Xiaohua. The Imperial Thunder Sect disciples were all dumbfounded. Cui Hongshan and Dui Qiming were also dumbfounded. However, Cui Hongshan's eyes flashed with a trace of understanding. He finally understood that everything that eldest senior brother Xiang Yang had said was true. Behind this realization, there was a burst of lingering fear, as well as a monstrous shock in his heart. In Cui Hongshan's heart, he immediately recalled his encounter with Xiaohua on the Sky Thunder Peak, as well as his interactions with Xiaohua. Only now did Cui Hongshan understand how tolerant Xiaohua was towards him, or perhaps how shallow he was. He actually called himself senior brother in front of a senior brother whose cultivation was much higher than his, and he was so disrespectful to this senior brother, so belittling him. Although Xiaohua hadn't made a move yet, Cui Hongshan knew very well that if Xiaohua were to reach out at any moment, Cui Hongshan's life would be in danger. He was truly ignorant and fearless. But what did I do wrong? After waiting for the regret and shock to recede, Cui Hongshan proudly thought, Xiaohua is only a rogue cultivator. He's only one step ahead of me. If I were to increase my strength, I might not necessarily lose to him. Not to mention, Cui Hongshan's mind turned rapidly, and he looked at Xiaohua again. Xiaohua, who was like a demon god, shook his body. The phoenix Dharma body let out a clear cry, flapped its wings, and flew in front of Cui Hongshan. With a wave of his two claws, several thick thunderbolts struck out, hitting the two sword cultivators who were about to fly to the flowing cloud flying ship. These two third-grade sword cultivators tried their best to resist the lightning bolts. One of them, who was charred black, barely managed to stand firm in midair, while the other directly fell down. It's only a Dharma body. In the distance, a white-haired swordsman anxiously said, Quickly surround them. We can kill him with our swords. Hearing this swordsman's reminder, the group of sword cultivators who were shocked by Xiaohua suddenly woke up and surrounded him from all directions. Xiaohua's phoenix Dharma body grabbed the flowing cloud-flying ship and flew back. At the same time, countless tiny lightning bolts struck out from the tips of its wings, knocking away the flying swords of the cultivators. Quickly get on the flying ship. Xiaohua pointed his finger, and the soaring dragon shears once again cut through the sky, cutting off several flying swords. He hurriedly commanded the cloud-suppressing seal to protect Zhen Minghui and the others. Zhen Minghui and the others woke up from their daze and flew onto the flowing cloud-flying ship. As soon as Zhen Minghui landed on the flowing cloud-flying ship, he immediately took off Han Bing's storage bag and took out a jade slip. He hurriedly immersed his divine sense in it, looking for the method to control the flowing cloud-flying ship. Cui Hongshan, are you still not going? Xiaohua glared at Cui Hongshan, who was still standing in midair. Why should I go? Cui Hongshan said coldly, You hid your cultivation. Are you trying to embarrass me at this time? You just want to see me make a fool of myself? Who has the patience to see you make a fool of yourself? Xiaohua retorted sarcastically, Every time you steal my words, I don't even have time to say them. I would rather die than receive your favor. Cui Hongshan said stubbornly. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua also laughed loudly. If not for eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law's warnings, if not for you being my myriad Thunder Valley's disciple, I wouldn't care about your life or death. It's just that isn't it too late for you to think of not receiving my favor? Cui Hongshan suddenly thought of how the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples' opponents inexplicably fell from midair one after another. Needless to say, that was definitely Xiaohua's method. Ha ha ha, isn't it too late? Xiaohua was incomparably comfortable at this time. He covered Cui Hongshan with his sleeve, and Cui Hongshan had no strength to resist at all, and was immediately restrained by the universe in the sleeve. You go up. Xiao Hua originally wanted to throw Cui Hongshan into Dui Qiming's arms, but on second thought, he waved his sleeve and threw Cui Hongshan onto the flowing cloud-flying ship. Many thanks, junior brother Xiao. Dui Qiming laughed as she escaped from death. She then followed Cui Hongshan onto the flying ship. Go. Xiao Hua pointed his finger, and the cloud-suppressing seal shone brightly and flew onto the flowing cloud-flying ship, protecting it tightly. Which one of you doesn't want to live, want to fight with me? Xiao Hua saw that the matter was settled and waved his hand. The soaring dragon shears floated in midair, and the huge phoenix avatar was also malevolent. He turned his head and roared towards the dozens of fifth-grade swordsmen. The group of sword cultivators saw Xiao Hua's arrogance and unconsciously became sluggish. I'm here to kill you. A sturdy man who was more than 10 feet tall like an iron tower flew over from nearby with a long staff-like flying sword in his hand. A mere fifth-grade swordsman actually dares to challenge me. Xiao Hua snorted coldly. With a wave of his arm, the huge phoenix avatar swooped down from the sky. Insignificant skill. The sturdy man brandished his long sword. The long sword spun like a windmill, and a hurricane was also born from the long sword. It was exactly the same as the hurricane of the phoenix avatar. Fight! Xiao Hua sneered and lightly reprimanded. The sharp claws of the phoenix avatar swung down from the sky, and a thick bolt of lightning was born from the claws and directly hit the sturdy man. The sturdy man was not nervous at all. He opened his mouth, and a blue pellet flew out. It grew with the wind, and in a moment, it actually became the size of a fist. That bolt of lightning was precisely hit by this object. Zilala, the huge bolt of lightning actually lingered around the bead, and then it was slowly absorbed by the bead. Thunder trapping bead? Damn it, this guy actually has my thunder controlling sex artifact. Xiao Hua was furious. This was originally an attack to show off his might, but it was actually broken by this guy. How could he not be angry? Kill. Xiao Hua did not hesitate. He urged his magic power, and the soaring dragon shears flashed again. This time, the golden light was even brighter. It was almost like a golden dragon flying towards the sturdy man. The sturdy man sneered and waved his hand. Ignoring Xiao Hua's phoenix avatar, he actually held the long sword in his hand and slashed horizontally at the soaring dragon shears. With a soft sound, the thick long sword and the golden light brushed past each other. The golden light not only cut through the long sword, but also cut through the sturdy man's body. The sturdy man looked at his long sword that was cut into two pieces in disbelief. His expression was very gloomy. Obviously, his primordial spirit was seriously injured. But then, the sturdy man unconsciously lowered his head to look at his waist. He saw that there, a line of red gradually flowed out, and in a moment, it was like a waterfall of blood. Then, the sturdy man's lower body fell off, and the sturdy man himself also fell in midair. If you die, then you die. Things can't be wasted. Xiao Hua's voice sounded again. The two pieces of the long sword and the sturdy man's storage bag were in his hand. Hiss! The group of swordsmen sucked in a breath of cold air, and their figures retreated again. At this time, the disciples of Chicken Crow Mountain had basically been wiped out. Many sword cultivators had died, and the remaining ones had all gathered. There were actually nearly several hundred of them. I'll fight you. Without waiting for Xiao Hua's challenge, an old man with a 6th-stage drawing sword flew out and said coldly, "You're only at the early stage of foundation establishment, relying on your bloodline avatar." Ha ha ha, Xiao Hua laughed loudly and pointed his hand. Transform into a sword. I'm the one in charge here. You're just a drawing swordsman. You're just throwing away your life. Go. Xiao Hua did not say much. The phoenix avatar soared into the air, and the soaring dragon shears similarly slashed through the air, attacking the old man at the same time. Attack! The old man waved his hand, and a green light flew out. Sharp sword chi immediately filled the area within several dozen feet, like the cool moonlight in autumn. Tai green light? Xiao Hua came to a realization and immediately understood why the old man was not afraid of the soaring dragon shears. This old man will receive your phoenix avatar. Xiao Hua's phoenix avatar had just flown up when a swordsman with an extremely similar appearance to the old man also flew out. With a wave of his hand, a green sword light also flew out. Twin swordsman? Wooden sword. Xiao Hua was somewhat dumbfounded. Rumble. Sure enough, the phoenix avatar's lightning was blocked by the wooden sword and could not achieve anything. And the soaring dragon shears and the flying sword tempered by Tai green light were both undamaged when they collided. They're really going too far. Xiao Hua was speechless. 2 sixth stage swordsmen against him. How shameless. -8. Chapter 2263. Go. Xiao Hua seemed to have endless magic power. With a wave of his hand, the soaring dragon scissors flew out again, and the phoenix avatar's sharp claws grabbed out again. Oomph! The two old men were somewhat disdainful, but just as the soaring dragon scissors streaked past the old man holding the Tai azure light flying sword, it suddenly accelerated and flew toward the other old man. At the same time, the phoenix avatar's sharp claws also passed by the other old man and attacked this old man. These two changes were really too fast, and the distance between the two sword cultivators was not too far. In the blink of an eye, the soaring dragon scissors and lightning arrived in front of the two. All the spectating cultivators were shocked. Ha ha ha. The two cultivators were not in a hurry and actually laughed loudly. The two of them formed inexplicable sword seals, and the same azure flying sword in their hands actually swayed. Gotcha! The soaring dragon scissors hit the azure flying sword that looked like a wooden sword, but sparks flew everywhere, and there was no damage at all. The two old men actually used a secret technique to switch the azure flying sword in their hands. Sure enough, when the phoenix avatar's lightning struck the other flying sword, it was like a stone sinking into the sea, and there was no power at all. Amazing! All the sword cultivators exclaimed from the bottom of their hearts. However, before they could exclaim from the bottom of their hearts, the situation on the field changed again. All the sword cultivators only looked at the azure flying sword in the old man's hand. But Xiao Hua moved at this time. He did not need to use any thunder-controlling movement, only the hibernating thunder escape, and in the blink of an eye, he flew in front of the old man closest to him. At this time, the soaring dragon scissors had just hit the flying sword. Oh, is this cultivator's brain damaged? All the swordsmen looked away from the flying sword and naturally saw Xiao Hua approaching the old man without anyone noticing, and they were all surprised. After all, Dao sect cultivators had weak bodies, and Xiao Hua did not look like a body cultivator. A sword cultivator's body was much stronger than a Dao sect cultivator's, and close combat was a sword cultivator's final killing move. Huh. The old man was naturally startled, but then the corners of his mouth curled up in contempt. The azure flying sword in his hand shook slightly and actually split into 3 to slash at Xiao Hua. Go to hell. Xiao Hua sneered, and a pitch-black spear suddenly appeared in his hand, and he used his strength to stab at the old man's chest. Magic weapon? The old man naturally knew what was good for him. He could tell at a glance that Xiao Yinlu was extraordinary, but he realized it too late. Xiao Hua's strength was great, and his speed was fast. The old man only felt a strong wind that was strong enough to suffocate him. He had just swung his flying sword a little when the demonic spear pierced his chest. The old man screamed. Before his body fell, Xiao Hua didn't stop at all. He turned around, used the bright thunder escape, and rushed towards the other old man. When Xiao Hua turned around, he didn't forget to put the old man's storage pouch and the green flying sword into the space. Following the elder's death, his twin brother's heart was also pierced with pain. Seeing Xiao Hua rapidly rushing over, his eyes turned red. The flying sword in his hand streaked across an azure light, sprinkling all around Xiao Hua, as if wanting to cut Xiao Hua into pieces of minced meat. Clang, clang, clang. A series of soft sounds rang out as the flying swords all landed on the dragon silver gilt. Although the flying sword didn't succeed, it still managed to obstruct Xiao Hua's plan. Just as the old man activated his sword origin and was about to use another divine ability, the surrounding sword cultivators cried out in alarm. The old man was slightly stunned, but then the golden light in front of him shone brightly. The soaring dragon scissors streaked across the golden light in midair, strangely splitting the old man in half. Xiao Hua used the soaring dragon scissors as the main force and the dragon silver gilt as the support. True and false, true and false, true and false. He killed 2 6th-stage sword cultivators in one fell swoop. Ha ha ha, who's a match for a sword cultivator? Who still dares to come and throw away their lives? Xiao Hua laughed loudly. He put away his storage pouch and green flying sword and roared loudly. Ignore him. A dignified voice rang out. This cultivator is stalling for time, letting us fight him one by one, so that the cultivators on the flying boat can escape. We don't need to care about him fighting alone. Listen to my command. Split into 2 groups and attack as a whole. One group attacks the cultivators on the flying boat, the other group attacks this guy. Damn it, there's finally someone who understands. Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He spread his phoenix Dharma body's wings and blocked the swordsman 300 feet away. He also consumed his magic power to kill and establish his might. Just as the swordsman said, he wanted to protect the people on the flowing cloud flying boat. What he was most afraid of now was these swordsmen forming a formation and attacking. Of course, Xiao Hua wasn't afraid of himself, but he was afraid of hurting the people on the flying boat. Moreover, until now, he still hadn't completely revealed his strength. He didn't want to completely reveal it so early. Following the swordsman's command, hundreds of swordsmen began to form a formation several hundred feet away. Xiao Hua's divine sense locked onto the swordsman, but he knew that even if he killed the swordsman now, it would be useless. It was better to think about how to escape. Rise! Xiao Hua angrily roared, and the phoenix Dharma body once again flew over. Its 300-meter-long wings spread open, and its 2 sharp claws immediately grabbed the bow of the flowing cloud-flying ship. The 30-meter-long flying magic tool was like a small wooden boat. Go! Xiao Hua's figure flew, and he used the hibernating thunder escape. He rushed towards a group of about 20 people who had just formed a formation not far away. The soaring dragon scissors turned into a golden light and rushed in front of Xiao Hua's head. The phoenix Dharma body's wings flapped, and waves of wind and thunder rang out incessantly. Lightning flashed in all directions, and its 2 claws tightly grabbed the flowing cloud flying boat. It followed Xiao Hua's body and rushed forward. Quick! The group of sword cultivators didn't expect Xiao Hua to rush towards them instead of a gap. They immediately formed sword seals and urged their flying swords to attack Xiao Hua. Go! Xiao Hua's face revealed a ruthless expression. He urged the soaring dragon scissors to cut through the sky, sweeping straight towards the group of sword cultivators in front of him. At the same time, he urged the suppressing cloud seal to fly in front of him to block the incoming flying swords. The group of sword cultivators miscalculated again. They didn't expect Xiao Hua to not use the soaring dragon scissors to block their flying swords, but to pass through the gap between the flying swords and directly kill them. When they understood, how could they be faster than the soaring dragon scissors? Several miserable screams rang out, and several sword cultivators in the middle were cut in 2 by the soaring dragon scissors. Moreover, the soaring dragon scissors merely drew an arc in the air and actually chopped up again from below. Several more sword cultivators were caught off guard and were cut in 2. Looking at the flying swords attacking Xiao Hua again, they had already been blocked by the suppressing cloud seal. Following the fall of many sword cultivators, several flying swords were taken away by Xiao Hua. Run! Seeing such a cruel and merciless killing god, the remaining sword cultivators opposite Xiao Hua only had this word in their minds. Jie! The phoenix Dharma body let out a long cry, and like a shooting star, it grabbed the flowing cloud flying boat and followed Xiao Hua out of the gap between these fleeing sword cultivators. Quick! Block them! Following that dignified voice, another group of 30 sword cultivators flew over in front of Xiao Hua, barely maintaining their formation. Ha ha ha! Kill! Xiao Hua had already grasped the method to kill sword cultivators. Without the slightest hesitation, he sent out the soaring dragon shears. Just like before, where the two golden lights passed, another dozen or so lives perished. Xiaohua also collected another dozen or so flying swords. Damn it, what a pity. There aren't many storage pouches. Xiaohua was still a bit far from the sword cultivators. Although he collected a few, even more still fell. When Xiaohua rushed out of this group of sword cultivators, his eyes suddenly opened up. There were no more groups of sword cultivators blocking his way. Only a dozen or so sword cultivators saw him appear and immediately flocked back, fearing that Xiaohua's soaring dragon scissors would fly towards them. Chase. The voice that Xiaohua loathed sounded again. Xiaohua coldly turned his head and saw a middle-aged swordsman with a square face and red sword armor commanding two groups of swordsmen to chase after him. Without hesitation, Xiaohua turned back, and the soaring dragon scissors in his hand flickered with a dazzling brilliance and pounced towards that swordsman. Ah! The middle-aged swordsman didn't expect that Xiaohua would actually turn back. While he was shocked, he hastily flew behind a group of swordsmen to hide. That group of swordsmen was also frightened by Xiaohua. Seeing the golden light fly over, they immediately fled, throwing whatever formation and such to the back of their minds. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua laughed heartily. His figure sank into the air, and he waved his hands. The dozen or so storage pouches that fell into his hands. Shortly after, he turned around again, urging the phoenix Dharma body that stopped in midair to fly into the distance once more. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua's unbridled laughter reverberated in the air. The group of sword cultivators actually numbered in the hundreds, but no one dared to chase after him. They didn't even dare to say a single word. It was as if they were afraid that Xiaohua would turn back again. Silence. Only the sound of the whistling wind was still there. After a long while, an unknown sword cultivator mumbled in a low voice, "This guy doesn't seem to be a disciple of Chicken Cry Mountain. Looking at that lightning cultivator's spell, he should be a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. We can't be considered to have disobeyed Senior Hua Jian's orders." These words were like a spring breeze, blowing all the frozen sword cultivators back to life. Their faces were filled with ready-made vitality. That's right. This guy's cultivation is really too high. Didn't you hear what he said? He's invincible under Hua Jian. We're only at the unsheathed sword realm. How can we resist? Yes, the Imperial Thunder Sect can't be compared to Chicken Cry Mountain. They're a famous sect, and they actually sent out a disciple comparable to the illusory sword realm in the first stage. It's really not something we can imagine. Forget it. The middle-aged sword cultivator dressed in scarlet sword attire also appeared at this time. He waved his hand and said, "Quickly go clean up the mess. Kill all the survivors of Chicken Crow Mountain. Take away all of Chicken Cry Mountain's treasures as well. The Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple has left, but it won't be long before the Dao Sect's disciple comes. We can't make another mistake." Yes, the group of sword cultivators didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly took action, either destroying the corpses and destroying the evidence, or plundering the spirit stones. They had already made arrangements beforehand, and everything was done in an orderly manner. Not to mention the fact that the sword cultivators had successfully plotted against Chicken Cry Mountain. Just the fact that Xiaohua had driven the Phoenix Dharma body and brought the flowing cloud-flying ship to fly dozens of miles away in one go was enough. Xiaohua's Buddhist sense didn't leave Chicken Cry Mountain at all. Seeing that the sword cultivators didn't chase after them, his heart also relaxed. -8. Chapter 2264. Seeing the flat foothills in front of him, his eyes turned, and his face immediately turned sallow. The phoenix celestial body also began to tremble. Then, with a sad cry, its claws loosened, and the flowing cloud-flying ship fell toward the foothills. The phoenix celestial body returned to Xiaohua's body, and the cloud-suppressing seal and soaring dragon shears also disappeared. What worried everyone the most was that Xiaohua's figure swayed, and he fell from the sky. "Junior brother Xiao. Xiaohua." Ming Mao and Dui Ling shouted at the same time. They flew down from the flowing cloud-flying ship and rushed toward Xiaohua at the same time. Ming Mao was naturally a bit faster and hugged Xiaohua in one go. Damn it. Xiao Hua cursed in midair. Su Qing, Chiu Su, you two things. This young master saved you in vain. Seeing that this young master's magic power was exhausted, you didn't even come down from the flying boat. Instead, you let two female cultivators come over. I wanted to faint for a while, but now that I'm fine, how can I do that? Thus, Xiao Hua opened his eyes slightly, and his figure broke free from Ming Mao's embrace. He barely managed to stand in midair and said, "Thank you, Senior Sister Ming Mao. I'm fine." "It's okay, Junior Brother Xiao," Ming Mao said with great concern. "If you can't fly, let me carry you in. There's still me." Dui Ling rushed over at this time and said with a look of longing, "Xiao Hua, you're really too brave. You really didn't exceed my expectations. You really, really made me happy." "Don't say too much." Xiao Hua waved his hand and looked at the flowing cloud flying ship on the foothills and said with a smile, "Let Senior Brother Minghui quickly clear the flying ship. And let's go." Dui Ling nodded and said, "If you can't, then let's fly first." When Xiao Hua flew to the front of the flying ship, the flowing cloud flying ship also slowly flew under Zhen Minghui's control. "Junior Brother Xiao, quickly come up," Zhen Minghui called out affectionately. "It's all because I'm stupid. I can only control the flying ship now." "Okay." Xiao Hua didn't say anything else and jumped onto the flying boat with Dui Ling and Ming Mao. The flying boat drew a beautiful arc in the air as it flew towards the north. The further it flew, the more stable it became. On the flying boat, Xiao Hua had just sat down when Dui Qiming walked over with a smile. "Junior Brother Xiao, if you still have magic power, release Hongshan shackles. I tried it just now, but it didn't work at all." Xiao Hua looked at Cui Hongshan lying on the flying boat, and his expression was very unsightly. He shook his head and said, "All right, Senior Apprentice Sister Dui, I don't have any magic power in my meridians. I can't break this confinement technique right now, so I'll have to trouble fellow Daoist Cui for a while." Fellow Daoist Cui. Although Dui Qiming didn't say anything, she was shaking her head in her heart. However, since Cui Hongshan and Xiao Hua were willing to step forward at the most critical moment and risk their lives to protect each other, no matter what the reason was, whether it was master and mistress's instructions or senior brother and senior sister-in-law's repeated reminders, it showed the affection between fellow disciples in the myriad Thunder Valley. He was many times better than those fellow disciples of Xiao Chong's, who only knew how to play the blame game. Therefore, Dui Qiming wasn't nervous at all. In her heart, she also vaguely felt that Xiao Hua might have done it on purpose. "Junior Brother Xiao, this is a chief cattail pill. Quickly take it." Su Qing hurriedly handed over a pill and said very apologetically, "Just now, Senior Apprentice Sister Bright Eyes was blocking in front of me, so I didn't have time to fly down." "Hee, it's nothing." Xiao Hua took the pill with a smile and took it without saying anything. He sat cross-legged on the side and circulated his energy. He usually took green spirit pills, so this chief cattail pill's medicinal power was too little and was basically useless. In any case, he was just putting on an act. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he opened his eyes and saw that everyone was sitting at the side, staring at him without blinking. They really wanted to see him clearly from the inside out. "I don't have anything to look at, right?" Xiao Hua looked down and asked. Seeing Xiao Hua suddenly open his mouth, everyone was slightly stunned and hurriedly said, "No, nothing." Xiao Hua got up and walked to Cui Hongshan's side. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air as if he was holding a heavy object. Cui Hongshan instantly felt his body lighten, and the feeling of being pressed down by an extremely heavy object was swept away. He immediately stood up from the flying boat. Hongshan, Dui Qiming hurriedly walked over and held his hand very sweetly. "Qiming." Cui Hongshan also revealed his tender feelings and held Dui Qiming's hand. The two looked at each other, and although they didn't say anything, it was better than 1,000 words. A love that had gone through the test of life and death could be stronger than gold. "Xiao Hua, I didn't expect your cultivation to be so profound." Cui Hongshan's hand was held by Dui Qiming. How could he not know what the beauty was thinking? He thought for a moment and said, You were able to easily escape from hundreds of sword-drawing cultivators. Not only that, Xiao Hua curled his lips. This Xiao also killed several sword cultivators. In Cui Hongshan nodded. This Cui, thanks you for saving my life. As he spoke, Cui Hongshan actually let go of Dui Qiming's hand and prepared to bow. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua only slightly raised his hand, and Cui Hongshan's hand couldn't bow no matter what. It was just like how Xiang Yang did that year. No need. This Xiao has already said that if you weren't a disciple of the Myriad Thunder Valley, if you weren't a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, then this Xiao wouldn't care so much. Xiao Hua once again regained his previous laziness, and even somewhat contradicted Cui Hongshan's tone. All right. Either way, great kindness can't be thanked with words. If you don't want to bow, then don't bow. Cui Hongshan didn't hold back and said as he straightened his body, This is a straightforward person. Xiao Hua nodded. You have some of this Xiao style. Cui Hongshan treated this sentence as if it had been blown away by the wind, and he didn't hear it at all. He probed. You clearly have such a powerful cultivation. Almost on par with Master. Why don't you show a bit in front of Master? At least he'll be a bit happier. What does this have to do with you? Xiao Hua rolled his eyes again and asked, Since you've said so, and this Xiao's cultivation is so high, then can't you call this Xiao senior brother? Impossible? Cui Hongshan coldly said, This Cui entered Foundation establishment before you, so naturally I'm your senior martial brother. If you want this Cui to call you senior martial brother, then you can enter Gold Core before this Cui. This is what you said. Xiao Hua snappily said, This Xiao wants to see who will enter Gold Core first. Hee. Cui Hongshan laughed again and glanced at Xiao Hua. With fellow Taoist Zhao's cultivation, you'll definitely enter Gold Core before this Cui. However, fellow Taoist Xiao, don't forget how you addressed this Cui when you were Qi Refinement, and this Cui was Foundation Establishment. Dui Qiming, who was listening at the side, couldn't help but laugh. That day when Xiao Hua called Cui Hongshan fellow Taoist Cui, Dui Qiming was there. Now, Cui Hongshan actually used Xiao Hua's original words to send him back. It was truly wonderful. Everyone from Thunderclap Palace, as well as Ming Mao and Dui Ling. Only when they heard this did they truly understand where the conflict between Xiao Hua and Cui Hongshan was. These two people actually almost cut off contact with each other for the sake of a senior martial brother's status. If it weren't for the sword cultivator's coercion today, these two people might have become lifelong enemies. Is it worth it? This was what everyone thought. Yes, is it worth it? Maybe it's because of the two youngsters' grudges, maybe it's because of the opposition between aristocratic families and loose cultivators, or maybe it's because of a gradually deepening misunderstanding. Who knows the specific reason? Forget it. Call me whatever you want. Xiao Hua waved his sleeves and sat to the side again. He put a few azure spirit pills into his mouth and closed his eyes to cultivate. He wasn't afraid of thousands of sword cultivators. But what about the old man who transformed into a sword? He took away the innate golden essence, and that old man clearly knew that Chicken Crow Mountain had innate golden essence. What if he came to find Xiao Hua? Senior martial brother Minghui, give this little brother the jade slip for controlling the boat. Cui Hongshan ignored Xiao Hua and walked to Zhen Minghui's side, saying, This little brother will also help you control the flying boat. Oh, that's right. Han Bing's storage bag belongs to this Xiao. Make a copy of this jade slip for controlling the boat. Xiao Hua, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes and said in a low voice, So stingy. Not only Cui Hongshan muttered in his heart, the crowd of Thunderclap sect disciples had the same thought. Also, this flowing cloud flying boat, when we're near Sky Patrol City, this Xiao will also take it away. Xiao Hua didn't care about their thoughts and continued to say, If the Seven Skills Sect's disciples or our masters see it, how can we have a share? All right. Cui Hongshan nodded and said, This flowing cloud flying boat was seized by fellow Taoist Xiao. We don't have any other thoughts. When we reach the place, we'll immediately disembark. Hee, you're all from the first team of Thunderclap sect. You can ride this flowing cloud flying boat at any time in the future. This Xiao will definitely not take your spirit stones. After Xiao Hua finished explaining everything, His heart was finally at ease. He closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Cui Hongxian and Zheng Minghui looked at each other. There was both joy and bitterness in their eyes. Needless to say, it was all thanks to Xiao Hua that they were able to escape from Chicken Crow Mountain today. Without Xiao Hua's help, the 9 people from Thunderclap sect wouldn't have any chance of survival. Looking at the 10 people from 7 Skills sect, one could see the fate of the Thunderclap sect disciples. Moreover, with Xiao Hua here, not to mention today, even in the future, in the battle between Dao sect and Sword Cultivators, there was no doubt that they would have a higher chance of survival. However, just like Cui Hongxian's previous shock, Zhen Minghui's heart was also filled with doubts. Xiao Hua's performance just now was not simply the performance of a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator. To be able to kill a 6th-grade twin swordsman and frighten hundreds of swordsmen into not daring to chase after him, it was absolutely impossible to do this without the cultivation of a golden core cultivator. The strength of a golden core cultivator. Cui Hongxian had been dreaming of this, but he didn't expect it to appear on Xiao Hua, who he had always looked down on. -8. Chapter 2265. Then they thought of Xiao Hua's unfathomable methods. That over 300 feet Phoenix Dharma body, the wind and thunder above the Dharma body, the thunder and lightning controlled by the Phoenix claws, the fleeting lightning escape technique, the demonic spear that broke the swordsman's defense with a single spear strike, the sure-kill demonic spear, and the golden flash, the magic treasure that took a human life without even seeing the shape of the magic treasure. These, any one of them was a divine ability that they couldn't covet even if they wanted to break their heads. How could they not feel the bitterness in their mouths? Then they thought of Xiao Hua's slack when capturing the green crab. How could he not be slack? That thing simply couldn't enter his eyes. Where did Xiao Hua go? He must have gone to find out where the green crab came from. They were still excited about the bean-sized Tai green light, and he wanted to find out where the Tai green light came from. This gap wasn't measured by miles. Unfortunately, they still underestimated Xiao Hua. Not to mention that Xiao Hua only revealed less than 50% of his strength. Even if they knew that Xiao Hua had obtained the innate Gold Mother, they would be so shocked that they wouldn't be able to cultivate in peace for several days. Of course, the premise was that they knew what the innate Gold Mother was. Xiao Hua's thoughts were different. He cultivated while pondering. He was somewhat puzzled. How could that old swordsman take out a flying sword from the foot of Rooster Cry Mountain? Was this flying sword tempered with the innate Gold Mother? Or was it absorbing the Tai green light under the innate Gold Mother? Perhaps it's like that. Xiao Hua thought of that green crab again. If it wasn't for the flying sword absorbing the Tai green light under Rooster Cry Mountain, how could the Tai green light leak out and be obtained by the green crab? Damn it. If I knew there was such a powerful flying sword under the innate Gold Mother, why didn't I look down? That flying sword is probably better than the innate Gold Mother. Thinking of the old swordsman's might when he took out the flying sword from the foot of the mountain, Xiao Hua almost wanted to drool. If I took the flying sword, wouldn't I be able to kill hundreds of swordsmen with a single sword? In addition, this Huan country's swordsman scheme is really far-sighted. They actually tempered a flying sword in my country of Shi. If I didn't come here occasionally, this innate Gold Mother would have been taken away by the Huan country's sword cultivators. Heh. This young master's luck is really not for show. However, when he thought about how the primordial Mother of Gold had been exchanged for by the hundreds of cultivators of the Rooster Cry Mountain, Xiao Hua felt somewhat dejected. The battle between sword cultivators had only just begun, but hundreds of cultivators had already died in front of him. Even he himself had reaped the lives of dozens of swordsmen. The war is truly cruel. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think. At the same time, he thought of Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuhe, whom he'd met at the Feather Immortal Assembly. Those 2 female sword cultivators seemed to be very good as well. Captain Cui, Zhen Minghui, who was steering the boat, suddenly thought of something and hurriedly transmitted his voice. How should we report to Senior Brother Jinyun when we see him? Are you going to tell me everything about this place? Oh, that's right. Cui Hongxian was also slightly surprised. Over 1,000 sword cultivators had gathered at Chicken Crow Mountain. Needless to say, their movements would definitely be reported to the Lightning Control sect. If they did not report it, they would have to bear the crime of not reporting it. But if he were to report it, what should he say? The only thing that needs to be explained is Xiaohua's cultivation. But Xiaohua's cultivation was something that even their master had no choice but to conceal. How could he let them speak of it? Although Xiaohua did not warn them, nor did he make them swear any oath, Cui Hongshan knew that Xiaohua definitely did not want them to speak of it. And the most important thing was their rejoicing just now. If Xiaohua was here, then they would have a chance to survive. If Xiaohua was not here, then they could be drowned by the waves of sword cultivators at any time. Not to mention big waves, just a small wave from Chicken Crow Mountain would have sunk the flowing cloud-flying ship. If Cui Hongshan had told the truth about Xiaohua's strength, then there was no need to think about it. Cui Hongshan would have guessed that Xiaohua would definitely have been transferred from his Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. Only now did Cui Hongshan truly know that the matter of Flame Forest Mountain that Xiangyang had mentioned was absolutely not fabricated. Everything was done by Xiaohua. This fellow disciple of the myriad Thunder Valley was really a treasure. Senior brother Minghui, how do you think I should deal with it? Cui Hongshan thought about it and had some ideas, but he still couldn't make a decision. He transmitted his voice and asked. Zhen Minghui looked around and transmitted his voice with shifty eyes. Do you still need to say it? This junior brother of yours is so powerful. Isn't he our bodyguard? How can we let him escape? Senior brother Minghui means. Cui Hongshan's eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, we will only talk about the result and not the process? Of course. Cui Hongshan clapped his hands and said, and this result has to be said early. Don't forget that not a single disciple of Chicken Crow Mountain escaped. Aren't we the ones who have the final say in this matter? If they don't agree, they can go find the sword cultivators to verify it. Indeed. Cui Hongshan wasn't a pedantic person like Xiangyang. He thought for a moment and said with a smile, and I still have the token of Chicken Crow Mountain. Valley Master Zhan Exun can't possibly give it to me after his death. Ha ha ha, exactly. Zhen Minghui heard and couldn't help but laugh out loud. You guys. Dui Qiming and the rest were sitting cross-legged. They weren't cultivating, but were calming their hearts and carefully recalling the danger just now. Suddenly hearing Zhen Minghui laugh, they all unconsciously opened their eyes. Wait a moment. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said with a smile. Of course, this wave also included Xiaohua. However, Cui Hongshan knew that Xiaohua wouldn't open his eyes at all. Sure enough, except for Xiaohua, the other 8 people all gathered together. Cui Hongshan told them about the matter he had discussed with Zhen Minghui, and finally said, I am going to report to senior apprentice brother Zhenyun that I left Chicken Crow Mountain long before the swordsman's attack. I wonder what everyone thinks? Of course. Dui Ling was the first to raise his hand and said, Xiaohua is our first team's Xiaohua. I don't want him to leave. Captain Cui is right. Dui Qiming also echoed, the war has just begun, and we have to consider our own future. Since we have explained the situation of Chicken Crow Mountain, we have achieved our purpose of coming to Chicken Crow Mountain this time. It's not like we didn't complete the mission. This concubine agrees. No one had any objections. Cui Hongshan reached out his hand again and took Han Bing's storage pouch from the flying boat. Without even looking at it, he handed it to Dui Qiming and said, Qiming, this belongs to Xiaohua. Give it to him. Don't let him think about it when he is cultivating. Yes, this concubine understands. Dui Qiming smiled at Cui Hongshan and turned to walk towards Xiaohua. This flowing cloud-flying boat wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. Although it didn't have a quiet room to rest, it was at least 10 feet long and was very spacious for 10 people. Xiaohua was sitting at the stern. When he heard Dui Qiming coming over, he opened his eyes and said with a smile, Senior Sister Dui, is something the matter? Of course, Dui Qiming didn't think that Xiaohua didn't know what happened just now. However, she still handed over the storage pouch with a smile and said, This is Han Bing's storage pouch. Hongshan asked me to give it to you. Also, regarding the matter of Chicken Crow Mountain, he has already said that he won't mention it to anyone else. Xiaohua took the storage pouch and put it away without looking at it. He then said as if he didn't care, This is also good. Everyone doesn't need to make a hard oath. As expected, Dui Qiming suddenly understood. Xiao Huajin didn't plan to reveal it. Cui Hongshan was right. Senior Sister Dui, this place is still far from Sky Patrol City. Xiao Hua said, we don't need to rush. We just need to fly at about the same speed as before. Otherwise, it will be hard to explain. Also, this little brother needs to cultivate. If there is nothing important, don't disturb me. Okay, this concubine understands. Dui Qiming nodded with a smile and turned back. And asking Senior Sister Dui to bring the storage pouch over is the same as you bringing it over yourself. This guy obviously wants to compromise, but he still wants to save face. Really? Xiao Hua closed his eyes again and sneered in his heart, this young master is still your senior brother. Since you have such intentions, this young master will understand. Dui Qiming relayed Xiao Hua's words to Cui Hongshan. Cui Hongshan nodded, indicating that he understood. He then sat down cross-legged and controlled the flowing cloud-flying boat with Zhen Minghui. Rooster Crow Mountain was not too far from Sky Patrol City. With the speed of the Thunderboat, it would only take more than half a month. The flowing cloud-flying boat was not as good as the Thunderboat, but it would only take about 20 days to fly there. However, Cui Hongshan was not in a hurry. After flying for more than 30 days, they arrived near Sky Patrol City. When Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui saw the snow region city in the distance, which was like a pillar supporting the sky, they lowered the drifting cloud boat and shouted, Junior brothers, the Sky Patrol City is right in front of us. We're going to abandon the boat and fly. Yes. All the disciples responded and disembarked from the flowing cloud-flying boat. Xiao Hua waved his hand and kept the flowing cloud-flying boat into the space. Let's go. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and did not stay there. Alas, 30 days have passed in the blink of an eye. This young master's cultivation growth is really limited. Xiao Hua's thoughts were still different from the others. He had to face a nascent soul cultivator, so he could not be without pressure. Seeing that Sky Patrol City was just around the corner and they might really meet immortal Jingru, he could not help but sigh. How good would it be if I could cultivate in seclusion for more than 10 years? Stop. Which sector you from? The snowy scenery near Sky Patrol City was naturally different from the left side of Rooster Crow Mountain. Cui Hongshan and the others flew and talked as they looked at the jade trees and jadeite branches. Snow covered the ground. Suddenly, a shout came from the sky, and more than 10 armored cultivators appeared. Cui Hongshan looked at the slightly older cultivator in the middle stage of foundation establishment at the front and frowned slightly. He stopped and cupped his hands. Who are you? We are the city guards of Sky Patrol City. I am Song Jie. The foundation establishment city guard was not displeased. He looked at everyone's Taoist robes and smiled. Fellow Taoist, are you a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect? But I don't know. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. -8. Chapter 2266. That's right. I'm Cui Hongshan from the Imperial Thunder Sect. I'm leading the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect. I was ordered by my master to go to Chicken Crow Mountain for business. Now, I'm returning to Sky Patrol City. I wonder if the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect have arrived at Sky Patrol City? Cui Hongshan replied in a manner that was neither haughty nor humble. Chicken Crow Mountain? You came from Chicken Crow Mountain? Song Jie was stunned and immediately rejoiced. He hurriedly said, My Sky Patrol City received news that Chicken Crow Mountain was annihilated by sword cultivators a month ago. Not a single disciple escaped. How did you all escape? Chicken Crow Mountain was annihilated by sword cultivators? Not a single disciple managed to escape? Cui Hongshan turned to look at Zhen Minghui. His face also showed surprise as he said, We were ordered to go to Chicken Crow Mountain by our master. But, at this point, Cui Hongshan stopped talking and smiled. We need to report this to our master. Please forgive me, fellow Taoist Song. I can't tell you about this. Yes, I understand. Song Jie did not intend to force him. He nodded and said, Senior Qian Maqian from the Imperial Thunder Sect has already entered the meeting hall of my Sky Patrol City. If fellow Taoist Cui wants to report, I can lead the way. Of course, Cui Hongshan did not know what a meeting hall was. However, after hearing what Song Jie said, He could only nod and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Song. Please." Song Jie did not say anything else. He instructed the other city guards to continue patrolling nearby. He and another early-stage Foundation establishment city guard accompanied the 10 disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect to Sky Patrol City. After flying for a while, the Sky Patrol City gradually approached. Cui Hongshan asked in a low voice, "From what I know, the patrol area of the 7 major cities in the Kingdom of Shi doesn't seem to be this far. Is it because the sword cultivator's attack is too fierce?" "Haha, I don't know the specific situation either." Song Jie explained with a smile. "I just received the City Lord's order to increase the patrol range. However, as far as I know, the matter is not as serious as fellow Taoist Cui thinks. Other than Chicken Crow Mountain and Clear Cave, 2 small places where sword cultivators killed them inexplicably, my Tao sect and sword cultivators have both won and lost in other places. In fact, my Tao sect even has the advantage." Speaking up to here, Song Jie hesitated for a moment before continuing. "However, the borders of the state of Shi, the state of Lian, and the state of Huan are extremely vast. Unless all the cultivators are guarding the borders at the same time, there is no way to stop the sword cultivators from entering the territory of our Tao sect. Right now, the sword cultivators and my Tao sect's attacks are intertwined, and we are in a stalemate. I'm afraid there won't be any special changes in the next few years." Senior Song, did the Sky Patrol City expand the patrol area because they were afraid of being attacked by sword cultivators? Dui Ling couldn't help but ask when he realized that Song Jie didn't explain why the Sky Patrol City expanded the scope of their patrol. Since Dui Ling was a Qi refinement cultivator, Song Jie only smiled and said proudly, "My Sky Patrol City is one of the 7 major cities in the country of Shi. Not to mention that the meeting halls of the 3 cultivation countries are located in Sky Patrol City. Just the Snowfield City Lord of Sky Patrol City is enough to intimidate sword cultivators. How dare a sword cultivator cause trouble in my Sky Patrol City? I'm guessing that it's because of the problem at Chicken Crow Mountain. The City Lord is afraid that the disciples of various sects and cultivation families who are coming to my Sky Patrol City will suffer losses, so he sent us out. Even the disciples of the cultivation families are coming?" Dui Ling rolled his eyes and smiled. "Wouldn't that be extremely lively?" Cui Hongshan thought more and asked tentatively, "Based on what fellow Taoist Song said, there are sword cultivators appearing near the Sky Patrol City?" "Hee, this isn't considered a secret. Fellow Taoist Cui will know when you reach the Sky Patrol City." Song Jie saw that there was no way to avoid it and smiled. This time, the sword cultivators launched a large-scale attack on the 3 cultivation countries. They are quite arrogant. Weapon cultivators, beast cultivators, and other rarely seen cultivators have appeared. Their methods are strange, and there are always people trying to sneak into my Sky Patrol City every few days. Beast cultivators? Weapon cultivators? Dui Ling's eyes widened and asked curiously, "Sword cultivators live by swords and are sword cultivators. What are beast cultivators and weapon cultivators?" Song Jie raised his eyes and looked at the Sky Patrol City that was still a little far away and explained, "Beast cultivators and weapon cultivators are similar to sword cultivators. They use spirit beasts or magic weapons to attach their primordial spirits and cultivate their bodies with them. From there, they can use the power of the spirit beasts or magic weapons to improve their cultivation." "Wow, there's such a magical cultivation method on the Dawn Rain continent?" Dui Ling exclaimed. Hee, it's not that magical." Song Jie replied, "We cultivators absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, cultivate the golden core, and give birth to babies. We emphasize on the Taoist foundation, and it's a magical power that can touch the creation. As for sword cultivators, weapon cultivators, and beast cultivators, they are all unorthodox techniques. They only seek magical powers for a while, and do not seek the path of longevity. How can it be magical?" Hee, this junior is just curious. I didn't expect there to be all kinds of cultivation methods in this world. Dui Ling's face was slightly red as he smiled apologetically. Xiao Hua was still flying at the back. He didn't speak, but he was laughing in his heart. This is nothing. This young master has ghost cultivators, Confucian cultivators, Buddhist cultivators, and even soul cultivators' cultivation methods. All of them can compete with Dao sections. Sword cultivators, weapon cultivators, and beast cultivators are rare, but in essence, I'm afraid they're not much different from Dao sects. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart was moved. Sword cultivators were sword cultivators. To be able to compete with Dao sects until now, it was enough to show that they were extraordinary. Although he had obtained Li Xiaobai's sword cultivator inheritance, he didn't carefully comprehend sword cultivators' cultivation methods because he had sword plays the world. Previously, when he fought with sword cultivators at Chicken Crow Mountain, those sword cultivators' strength was indeed very different from Xiaohua's, but their attacks were indeed unique. This showed that sword cultivators still had their merits. Xiaohua had obtained a lot of storage bags and flying swords. If he searched among them, maybe there would be some unexpected surprises. Let's wait in Sky Patrol City and find a quiet room to rest. Xiaohua thought as several people gradually flew closer to Sky Patrol City. Seeing the might of Sky Patrol City, Xiaohua was extremely emotional. Among the 7 major cities in the country of Xi, except for Tengmu City, Xiaohua had been to the other 6 cities. These 6 cities really had their own characteristics and lived up to their names. At this time, at the gate of Sky Patrol City, there were more people patrolling. The cultivation of the city guards was also much higher. There were as many as 10 leaders in the middle stage of Foundation Establishment and the late stage of Foundation Establishment. It could be seen that the situation in Sky Patrol City was far from optimistic, as Song Jie said. Fellow cultivators, Song Jie led Cui Hongshan and the others to the disciple on duty and said, "Please take out the token of Imperial Thunder Sect and other things for inspection." Cui Hongshan nodded and took out the token. He activated his spiritual power and injected a spell into the token. Then, he handed it to a leader in the middle stage of Foundation Establishment. The leader immersed his spiritual sense into it and looked at it. Then, he looked at Cui Hongshan and Zhun Minghui one by one. Then, he returned the token to Cui Hongshan and nodded. "Not bad. The first team of Imperial Thunder Sect. The image and imprint of the token are intact. Please." Song Jie also handed his token to the leader for inspection. Then, he raised his hand and motioned for Cui Hongshan and the others to follow him into the city gate. Just as they entered, the dozen or so team leaders all looked at them, as if they were paying attention to them. Cui Hongshan and the others were naturally genuine Dao sect disciples. Even if Xiaohua was a little strange, his meridians were still filled with vital spirit and would not cause the restriction to move. Only after the 10 of them had entered the city gates did the leaders turn their attention elsewhere. Others might not notice it, but Xiaohua, who was walking at the back, was extremely sensitive. He had long been uncomfortable being stared at by the dozen or so people. When he knew that they were looking away, he secretly complained, "Why would a capable sword cultivator come here to walk into a trap? I'm afraid this kind of vigilance is useless." After entering the Sky Patrol City, Xiaohua and the others naturally did not follow to the meeting hall. Under the lead of another city guard, they went to the station of Imperial Thunder Sect. Cui Hongshan was taken to the meeting hall. At this time, the meeting hall was different from before. The futons on the 3 floors were full of cultivators. Some were old, some were young, some were male, and some were female. Everyone's expressions were different. Some were frowning slightly, some were gloating, and some were scratching their chin as if they were thinking about something. "Fellow cultivators," a loud voice sounded. It was the middle-aged cultivator sitting on one of the 9 futons in the first row. This middle-aged cultivator was none other than Lu Xinwu, the cultivator in the middle stage of Gold Core realm of Shanghua sect. He was also the representative sent by Shanghua sect this time. "What? Fellow cultivator Lu, did you think of something?" A hale and hearty old man opposite Lu Xinwu had his eyes slightly closed. When he heard Lu Xinwu's words, he was somewhat displeased and asked, "Haha, fellow cultivator Li, sword cultivators are the same as your Changbai sect. They all cultivate flying swords. You should know better than me what they want to do, right? Seeing that you have been silent, you must have thought of something?" Lu Xinwu did not answer but asked instead. The hale and hearty old man was Li Jijia, the cultivator in the middle stage of Gold Core realm of Changbai sect. Fellow cultivator Lu's words are really wrong. Li Jijie sneered. Changbai sect is not the only sect in my Dao sect that cultivates flying swords. However, our flying swords are especially famous in the three kingdoms of cultivation. This is not an excuse for fellow cultivator Lu to slander my Changbai sect, right? Ha ha ha, fellow cultivator Li, you are still the same as 15 years ago. You don't even let me make jokes. Lu Xinwu laughed. Your Changbai sect's flying swords are the orthodox of my Dao sect. This is something that no one can erase. How can my words defame it? Of course you can say it in private, but not in front of so many fellow cultivators. Li Jijie still did not hold back his reply. Lu Xinwu was a little embarrassed. A red-faced old man in the second row smiled and said, Fellow cultivator Lu, are there barbs on the praying mat in front? How about I exchange places with you? TCH, even if there are barbs, it is still my Shanghua sect's seat. Brother Qianmo, this is not something your Imperial Thunder sect can sit on. Lu Xinwu knew that Qianmo was giving him a way out. Although his words were unforgiving, his tone was still warm. All right, the various sects have reported the current situation. We have also explained the situation in Sky Patrol City. We have been thinking for a long time. Everyone, tell us how we should fight. Kunlun sect's Yuan Zhongju said. He was on duty today. -8. Chapter 2267. Let me share my thoughts first. A scholarly female cultivator in the early Golden Core stage spoke up. She was Ji Hong from the Clear Leaf sect. Although the war has just started, it feels very chaotic. The sword cultivators are stirring up trouble everywhere, but I can't see what they are up to. I think it should be the same as the previous wars. As long as the sword cultivators plunder some spirit stones, get some resources, and train some disciples, they will retreat. The problem is that they still need to train for a few years, or even 10 years. Yuan Zhongyu smiled bitterly. We are just the vanguard for our sect to stop the attack of the sword cultivators. If the sword cultivators attack too much of the country of Shi and the country of Lian before the arrival of our sect masters, we will lose face. Our sect masters will also reprimand us. Then kill. Li Jijie sneered. Isn't the sword cultivator all about the heart of the sword? We will stop killing with killing. Tisk tsk, aren't we killing every day? Chengming from the Immortal Ascension sect smacked his lips and said, if we want to kill, just line up in a formation and kill them face to face. There is no need to make it so complicated. You guess, I guess, we will rack our brains every day. At this moment, there was another wave of mana fluctuation in the middle of the meeting hall. Seeing this, Yuan Zhongyu frowned and muttered, damn it, this is really an eventful period. Could it be that something happened to the sword cultivator again? As he spoke, Yuan Zhongyu pointed his hand and a mirror appeared in the middle of the crowd. Song Jie and Cui Hongshan's figures appeared. Oh, disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect? Yuan Zhongyu glanced at them, then looked up at Qianmo and asked curiously, I don't know. Qianmo obviously didn't know Cui Hongshan. He said, let him in. Why is there a city guard from the Sky Patrol City? A cultivator in the third row asked, do the disciples of the three kingdoms of cultivation need their protection? Yuan Zhongyu raised his hand and pointed at the mirror. A burst of light burst out like a fountain, and Cui Hongshan and Song Jie's figures appeared in the middle of the meeting hall. Song Jie swept his gaze over, and there was no surprise on his face. He bowed respectfully. However, Cui Hongshan was clearly caught unprepared. Looking around, he realized that he was surrounded by Gold Core seniors, all of whom were staring at him from above. He couldn't help but feel nervous. When he heard Song Jie salute him, he came to his senses and quickly bowed in greeting. Junior Cui Hongshan of the Imperial Thunder Sect's First Squad offers greetings. Seniors. First Squad? Thunder Palace's Cui Hongshan? You're still alive? Qianmo couldn't help but be shocked when he heard this. However, he wasn't surprised and stood up from the praying mat. After all, it had been more than a month and the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples had started to die. If Cui Hongshan wasn't from the first group, Qianmo might not have remembered him. Rooster Crow Mountain. Qianmo immediately understood why the Sky Patrol City's city guard had followed them over. He said anxiously, Cui Hongshan, Tell me about what happened at Rooster Crow Mountain. How did you escape from the hands of the sword cultivators at Rooster Crow Mountain? Chicken Crow Mountain? The other cultivators naturally understood, and their eyes unconsciously revealed a look of surprise. On the other hand, Seven Possibilities Sect's Wang Ye's face was gloomy. This junior met Brother Chui's group of 10 outside Sky Patrol City. When Song Jie saw Yuan Zhongyu's gaze sweep over, he hurriedly bowed and said, "Because the incident at Chicken Crow Mountain is a recent one, my Lord City Lord is also concerned about it. Therefore, I would like to hear what actually happened so that I can report it to the City Lord." However, Brother Chui insisted on reporting to the Master and refused to tell anyone else. This junior had no choice but to accompany Brother Chui to the conference hall so that he could report back after listening. Yuan Zhongyu was very satisfied when he heard this. He looked at Cui Hongshan with a smile. "Cui Hongshan, tell me, since the 10 of you are safe and sound, you must have left Rooster Crow Mountain before it was destroyed, right?" Seeing that Yuan Zhongyu actually came to such a conclusion after hearing Song Jie's words, Cui Hongshan was very shocked. He hurriedly bowed and answered, "Senior, that's right. That's not bad." Yuan Zhongyu smiled and asked again, "It's your great fortune to be able to escape from death. Furthermore, since you were able to go to Rooster Crow Mountain before it was destroyed, you should be able to bring us some information. Speak." "Yes." Cui Hongshan bowed, but he still looked slightly at Qianemo, who was wearing the same Taoist robe as him. Qianemo was even more satisfied. He nodded slightly and motioned for Cui Hongshan to speak. "Senior, please no." Cui Hongshan smiled apologetically. "We were sent to Rooster Crow Mountain by Martial Uncle Qianemo." Then, Cui Hongshan recounted everything that happened at Rooster Crow Mountain. However, Cui Hongshan only mentioned Han Bing's provocation slightly. After all, Han Bing was already dead, and there were 7 Possibilities Sect's masters here. If he rashly mentioned it now, it would only provoke a conflict between the two sects. This was obviously not what Qianemo of the Thunder Control Sect, who was at a disadvantage, wanted to hear. When Yuan Zhongyu heard that the 7 Possibilities Sect had actually sent a team of 10, a strange expression appeared on his face. However, he quickly concealed it. We saw that the 7 Possibilities Sect's disciples had already broken through the siege of Rooster Crow Mountain, and that Rooster Crow Mountain had no intention of keeping us here. Thus, we asked for a token from Rooster Crow Mountain Valley's master, Zhang Xian, and left Rooster Crow Mountain. As he spoke, Cui Hongshan took out Zhang Xian's token and handed it over respectfully. Yuan Zhongyu waved his hand, and the token landed in his hand. He scanned it with his divine sense and handed it to Hong Zhao. Everyone looked at it and nodded. Thus, Qianemo put away the token and threw a token to Cui Hongshan. He smiled and said, "Cui Hongshan, you're from the first team of the Thunder Control Sect. You've completed your first mission so well. This is my token. Take it and go to the Thunder Control Sect's encampment to receive your reward." "Yes, thank you, Martial Uncle Qian." Cui Hongshan let out a long sigh and put away the token. He then said respectfully, "However, after we left Rooster Crow Mountain, we encountered a few sword cultivators who were pregnant with swords." "Oh?" Everyone's ears perked up when they heard this, and they listened attentively. Cui Hongshan originally didn't want to say more. However, he was a disciple of the Thunder Control Sect after all. He was afraid that leaving this matter out would be detrimental to the Tao sect. After thinking for a long time, he said, "After we killed that sword cultivator, we felt that something was amiss. We were afraid that there were other dangers in Rooster Crow Mountain, so we returned to report or sent a message glyph. However, just as we turned back a few miles, we discovered that there were dozens, no, hundreds of swordsmen flying in the direction of Rooster Crow Mountain. We didn't dare to move forward rashly and prepared to quietly go in another direction. However, there were just as many swordsmen in other directions. I'll let you seniors know that I was really scared at that time. I saw dozens of swordsmen at the 6th layer of the Bright Sword Realm on their swords with my own eyes. I didn't dare to gamble with the lives of several Qi refinement disciples in the team and didn't dare to fly in the direction of Rooster Crow Mountain anymore. I only sent a few message glyph to remind the disciples of Rooster Crow Mountain to be careful. We immediately changed our direction. We were afraid that the sword cultivators would find us. It's fine. Yuan Zhongyu said kindly, in the face of a great enemy, you need to use your brain. Blindly being rash isn't what a real man should do. You were able to judge the situation and preserve your strength. You brought back the 9 disciples of the Thunder Control sect safely. That's a great merit. What happened next? Thank you, Senior. Cui Hongshan didn't know Yuan Zhongyu's name and only thanked him by calling him Senior. He continued, we knew that Rooster Crow Mountain was in danger, so we set up an ambush in the distance. When night fell, rumbling sounds began to be heard. I'm afraid that the swordsmen were attacking Rooster Crow Mountain. The rumbling sounds of the attack continued until noon of the second day. Ah, noon of the second day? That long? Yuan Zhongyu was also surprised. He looked at the defensive formation and said, based on your estimation, how many sword cultivators were attacking Rooster Crow Mountain? Cui Hongshan pondered for a moment and said without hesitation, I saw hundreds of swordsmen in one direction. If we're talking about the area surrounding Rooster Crow Mountain, there should be thousands of swordsmen. Impossible. Ji Hong of the Bright Leaf sect immediately denied. Rooster Crow Mountain is just an unknown aristocratic family. In fact, it can't be considered an aristocratic family. How could they have such a powerful mountain-protecting array? How could they withstand the attacks of thousands of swordsmen? Whether Rooster Crow Mountain is an ordinary Dao sect or not, this old man can't judge. Yuan Zhongyu said very seriously. Someone must know about this. However, let's wait for Cui Hongshan to finish speaking. Yes, Cui Hongshan didn't know as much as Xiaohua. His expression didn't change as he said, when noon of the next day, an extremely powerful sword chi suddenly appeared at Rooster Crow Mountain. Although I was very far away, I could still feel the sword chi beside me. I knew that extremely powerful swordsmen were coming, so I didn't dare to act rashly. Then, there was an earth-shattering sound. Even the place where I was hiding shook. Then, a dazzling sword light appeared in the direction of Rooster Crow Mountain. And then, the corner of Yuan Zhongyu's eyes twitched as he asked. Cui Hongshan thought for a moment and said with a bitter smile, since I knew that a high-level swordsman was coming, how could I dare to stay any longer? That sword light was very sharp. I felt that I could be blinded by that sword light. Therefore, I called a few disciples under me to quickly escape. And do you think that the swordsmen who came later were at cultivation level? Qianemo asked softly. They transformed into swordsmen. Cui Hongshan answered without hesitation. Haha. Yuan Zhongyu clapped his hands and took out a token. He handed it to Cui Hongshan and said, Cui Hongshan, you are very good. You were able to judge the situation when you were in a difficult situation and brought your fellow disciples out of danger in time. At the same time, you were able to face danger without fear. Under the premise of considering your own safety, you were able to obtain so much information for the Cultivation 3 Kingdoms. From today onwards, don't say a single word to the outside world. If anyone asks, just say that it was the decision of the discussion hall. Take this token and go to the discussion hall to receive your reward. You have also made a great contribution to the Cultivation 3 Kingdoms. I will remember it with this token. -8. Chapter 2268. Yes. Cui Hongshan was overjoyed as he bowed and received the token. Songjia, do you have any other questions? Yuan Zhongyu turned around and asked. This? Fellow Daoist Cui, are you sure that the high-level cultivator was a sword transformation cultivator? What was that sharp sword gleam? Songjia thought for a moment and asked. This? Cui Hongshan hesitated for a moment. He did see the sword transformation elder's cultivation, but he was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. He only heard Xiao Hua's arrogant shout, so he couldn't be sure that it was a sword transformation cultivator. Besides, he was pretending to be far away, so he couldn't be sure. Of course I can't be sure. Cui Hongshan answered honestly. I also saw that sword gleam, but if it wasn't taken by the sword transformation cultivator, then it must have been taken from Chicken Crow Mountain. Songjia nodded and cupped his hands respectfully to Yuan Zhongyu, saying, I have no more questions. I will report this to the city lord. All right, all of you can leave. Yuan Zhongyu waved his hand, and Songjia and Cui Hongshan's figures disappeared with a wave of light. The meeting hall fell into silence. No one expected that the destroyed Chicken Crow Mountain would have so many stories before the tragedy struck. The disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect and Seven Skills Sect had arrived. The disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect were able to escape and bring back so much information, which was much better than the complete destruction of Clear Cave. The reward and merit for Cui Hongshan was completely worth it. Fellow Taoist Wang Yi, don't you have anything to say? Yuan Zhongyu's voice finally sounded in the quiet meeting hall. I didn't expect that other than the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, your Seven Skills Sect had also sent disciples over. How thoughtful. Hee, I don't know much about it at this moment. Wang Yi wasn't nervous at all and said with a smile, the Imperial Thunder Sect happened to pass by Chicken Crow Mountain, so of course fellow Taoist Qian knew about it. However, I have always been in Sky Patrol City, and my disciples were also killing sword transformation cultivators outside Sky Patrol City. If Hanbing and the rest happened to receive a message from Chicken Crow Mountain, it would be normal for them to head there. It seems that Hanbing didn't say that. Qian Mo immediately pointed out the flaw. Wang Yi laughed and said, Hanbing and the others are already dead. Everything is said by your Imperial Thunder Sect. What can I say? In any case, fellow Taoist Wang has to give an explanation to the three kingdoms of cultivation. Yuan Zhongyu didn't care about Wang Ye's refusal and smiled. Otherwise, it'll be hard for me to explain to everyone. Even if this old man reports to the discussion hall, who would be able to report the matter of Emoqing Cave? Wang Yi sneered. Fellow Taoist Wang was on duty in the Clear Cave. Naturally, it's fellow Taoist Wang's turn to worry now. Yuan Zhongyu retorted, I was on duty on the Chicken Crow Mountain. Please explain yourself, fellow cultivator Wang. Fellow Taoist Wang, you don't want to come down from the praying mat, do you? Qian Mo smiled and said, just tell me the truth. Fellow Taoist Wang, don't forget the vow we made before we came to the conference hall. Yuan Zhongyu reminded him bluntly. A trace of hesitation appeared on Wang Ye's face as he said in a low voice, I need to report this matter to the sovereign. Fellow Taoist Wang, why go through so much trouble? Just report it to Immortal Lu and I here, so that we can report this matter to the sovereign. The son of the Tai Ching sect said coldly. Wang Yi thought for a moment and nodded. Fellow Taoists, please wait a moment. Immediately, Wang Yi took out a ring, activated his magic power, and threw it in the air in front of everyone. A ripple flashed in the air, and the ring gradually enlarged into an oval mirror. The mirror was originally dark, but in a moment, it shone brightly and gradually became clear. Immortal Lu Ni's young figure was revealed. Greetings, Senior. Everyone didn't dare to neglect and stood up to salute. Well, what are you waiting for? Immortal Lu and I said with a smile on his face. Is Century City facing a difficult problem? Yes, Sovereign knows. Wang Yi said hurriedly. Rooster Crow Mountain was destroyed by sword cultivators. Just now, the surviving disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect came back. They arrived at Rooster Crow Mountain first and luckily escaped from the sword cultivators' encirclement. I thought it was a problem. Immortal Lu and I didn't take this matter seriously and said with a smile, this matter was hidden from others before, but now it's not a big deal. Our Seven Skills Sect is established for refining tools, so it's normal to have a few secrets. Yes, I understand. Wang Yi bowed and said, farewell, Senior Lu and I. Everyone saw Immortal Lu and I wave his sleeve and knew he was leaving, so they immediately bowed and saluted. When the mirror was closed, Wang Yi explained the matter of Rooster Crow Mountain and explained, this matter was originally a secret of our Seven Skills Sect. I didn't expect the sword cultivators to know about it. Presumably, they were after the Tai Green Light. Since our Seven Skills Sect suffered such a big loss, I didn't want to stick my neck out. But I didn't expect. There's no such thing as an airtight wall in this world. Nothing can be hidden from others. Yuan Zhongyu nodded and said, if it's for this so-called innate golden mother, it's normal for the sword cultivators to launch a large-scale attack. Sigh, fellow Taoist Wang, letting the sword cultivators obtain this item is tantamount to adding wings to a tiger for them. Sigh, what other ideas do I have? Wang Yi stretched out his hand. That item can't be taken from Rooster Crow Mountain, and I can't send many disciples over with great fanfare. I thought that Rooster Crow Mountain is very hidden, so even if it was occupied by the sword cultivators, they might not be able to discover it. But I didn't know where the flaw was. The sword cultivators actually knew about it. It's really fate making fools of people. Sigh. Forget it, let's not talk about Rooster Crow Mountain anymore. Yuan Zhengyu waved his hand and raised his head again. What's the matter with Clear Cave? If any fellow Taoist has any twists and turns, please tell us in advance. Don't let our Tao sect be caught unprepared in the battle with the sword cultivators. Unfortunately, the meeting hall was silent again, and no one spoke. Fellow Taoist Yuan, let's leave the matter of Rooster Crow Mountain and Clear Cave as it is for now. Black Heaven Sect Xiong Huasong reminded, let's discuss the matter of the spirit stone veins. The sword cultivators have launched a large-scale attack on our country of Shi and the country of Lian. The surrounding spirit stone veins must not be occupied by them. Moreover, there are many beast cultivators, weapon cultivators, and giants in the Wind Dream Mountain range. We must deploy manpower and give them a head-on blow. Yes, that's right. I believe that all fellow Taoists already have a plan in mind on how to deploy the troops. Please share it with us. Yuan Zhengyu nodded and said, and looked around again. Thus, according to the distribution of their disciples, the cultivators of each sect began to speak of their plans. Just as the meeting hall was getting busy again, Yuan Zhengyu saw another wave of dermic power in front of his eyes. What's the matter again? Yuan Zhengyu's expression changed slightly. Seeing this, everyone stopped and waited for Yuan Zhengyu to open the mirror, only to see a blood-stained Tao sect disciple appear in the light. What's the matter? Yuan Zhengyu saw that the disciple's Taoist robe was stained with blood and knew that something big had happened. He hurriedly asked, Senior, please know, I'm Fanxing, a disciple of the Utopia faction. More than 300 disciples of my Utopia faction fell into a trap set up by the sword cultivators near the Swift Wind Ridge. They were all killed by the sword cultivators. Ah? The Utopia faction's Hung Ming suddenly stood up and said angrily, When did this happen? Which sword sect was responsible for it? Reporting to Martial Uncle Hung Ming, Fanxing saw Hung Ming, and his eyes turned red. He almost cried as he said, About 10 days ago, it was done by the Void Heaven Sword sect. Fanxing, how do you know it was done by the Void Heaven Sword sect? Yuan Zhengyu asked curiously. Fanxing clapped his hands and took out a sword-shaped flying sword. He said loudly, This was left behind by the swordsman of the Void Heaven Sword sect. He asked me to bring it back to Sky Patrol City. Give it to me. Hung Ming grabbed the flying sword and it fell into his hand. Hung glanced at the flying sword that was almost transparent. He exerted some force in his hand, and a brilliant four-colored light shot out from the flying sword. A sword light flew out, surrounded by the light. The sword light condensed into a faint human figure in the air. It was an extremely young swordsman. Fellow cultivators of the Taoist faction, I'm Qin Jian of the Void Heaven Sword sect. The war between the Taoist faction and the sword cultivators has been going on for more than a year, but there hasn't been anything special about it. I felt extremely lonely, so I planned to kill these 300 cultivators. TSK. Of course, this isn't just aimed at the Utopia faction. Who told them to be so unlucky? Moreover, from today onwards, I'll set up ambushes from time to time to lure the cultivators of the various factions into the ambush and kill them one by one. I seem to have heard some cultivators say that we swordsmen specialize in killing and don't care about our Taoist foundations. We're crude people. I want to see how many meticulous cultivators a crude person like me can kill. Ha ha ha. Immediately, the sword light dimmed and turned into specks of silver light before disappearing into the air. This is a challenge to the Taoist faction. Hung Ming shouted rudely. If I don't kill Qin Jian, how can I face the disciples of the Utopia faction? You want to kill Qin Jian? Yuan Zhengyu glanced at Hung Ming and took out a jade slip from his storage pouch. He scanned it with his divine sense and said coldly, I'm afraid fellow Taoist Hung Ming won't be able to kill that bastard that easily. You might even die in his hands. Oh. Hung Ming was slightly stunned, and a trace of understanding appeared in his eyes. He reached out and took the jade slip from Yuan Zhongyu's hand. After reading it, he said angrily, "This guy is a third-grade illusory swordsman. His strength is comparable to a late-stage golden core cultivator of the Taoist faction. In terms of attack power, he's comparable to a nascent soul cultivator. Even if he were to fight me, he would definitely win. How could he attack the ordinary disciples of the Utopia faction?" "Humph, if that's the case, then don't blame me for being ruthless," Yuan Zhongyu said coldly. "One golden core cultivator of us can't compare to this guy. What about 10? What about 20? Didn't this guy say that? In terms of scheming, why would we be afraid of a barbaric sword cultivator? Let's discuss and set up an ambush for him. 10 of us can attack together and kill him." Everyone applauded when they heard this, but if you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Com. -8. Chapter 2269. I suddenly understand. However, Wang Yi suddenly understood and said sternly, "Isn't the sword transformation swordsman on Foul Crying Mountain Qin Jian? Wasn't the ambush on Foul Crying Mountain set up by Qin Jian? This bastard is really hateful. He actually found out the secret of our 7 skills sect." "That's right." Heng Zhao nodded and said, "With Qin Jian's attack power, isn't he at the nascent soul stage? In the eyes of the Foundation Establishment stage disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, isn't he at the sword transformation stage? Like I said, the war has just begun. How could a sword transformation swordsman appear? This Qin Jian is trying to take advantage of the situation." "Humph, barbarians from the barbarian lands. Do you think that you are amazing just because you learned some combination techniques from my Dao sect? To think that you actually dare to show off in front of us. How hateful. If we directly kill this fellow, I'm afraid that we will lose face." An old man in the third row furiously said, "Are you Su Zhachi from Chenfan Valley?" An old woman smiled and said, "I'm Qing Jiang from Mozong Mountain. Long time no see." "Fellow Qing." Su Zhachi smiled. Qing Jiang nodded and said with a smile, "According to what fellow Su said, we can't directly kill him. We can only set up an ambush. Wouldn't we fall into Qin Jian's trap again?" That's right." Su Zhachi was slightly stunned and nodded. "This barbarian is indeed cunning. He actually schemed against us from the start of the communication." "Hee, I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it now." Qing Jiang smiled slyly. "Oh, Qing Jiang? Fellow Qing? Your Mozong Mountain is also an important part of our Dao sect. Why can't you say it?" Wang Yi said with dissatisfaction, "If it's useful, how can we not use it? Yes, our Dao sect has so many disciples. In terms of cultivation, there's no need to talk about it. From what I know, there must be many extremely intelligent disciples. It's not a big deal that we can kill Qin Jian, and we've fallen into Qin Jian's trap. However, if other disciples use some kind of strategy or secret technique to kill him, wouldn't it motivate our disciples and also suppress the sword cultivators?" Qing Jiang spoke out her thoughts. "Yes, that's right." Dasun clapped his hands and said, "There's another aspect. Those cultivators who didn't respond to the call can also participate in the war and increase the strength of our Dao sect. Ordinary disciples. I'm afraid they don't have that kind of cultivation," Yuan Zhongyu said in a deep voice. "That's an attack that's comparable to a nascent soul senior's. We don't have the confidence to take it on." "Ha ha ha. Open and above board. Of course, ordinary disciples are no match for him." Qing Jiqiang laughed. "Don't underestimate the secret technique of my Dao sect. Who knows which disciple? Maybe a few disciples will be able to kill him. It's just a gimmick. It's good if it works, but what if it doesn't?" "Great. I agree." Wang Yi raised his hand and said, "Let's use the reward method. In the 3 kingdoms of cultivation, no matter which sect or clan you are from, even if you are an itinerant cultivator, the conference hall will reward you handsomely if you bring me Qin Jian's head. Our 7 skills sect will take out spirit stones, spirit pills, and a low-grade magic treasure. Our Utopia faction will do the same." Heng Ming clapped his hands and said, "I will also take out a cultivation art on behalf of the Utopia faction." Therefore, in the conference hall, many sects agreed and took out spirit stones and other items as rewards. After a while, a reward order was issued in the conference hall and spread throughout the entire Sky Patrol City. Then, it spread from the Sky Patrol City to the entire Xiaoyu continent. Xiaohua was still keeping a low profile. He followed Zhen Minghui and the others to the encampment of the Imperial Thunder Sect under the guidance of another city guard of the Sky Patrol City. This was an extremely large gate. The gate was made of huge green stones. High above the gate, there was a purple-red plaque with the words Imperial Thunder Sect written on it. The entrance was naturally guarded by disciples of the lightning-controlling sect, all of whom were in the 12th layer of the aura-refining realm. Seeing Xiaohua and the others coming over with the city guards, one of the disciples quickly stepped forward and bowed, asking, "May I know which squad senior marshal brother is from? Please tell me." Seeing that the disciple didn't take the initiative to report his name and even asked for the name of his team, Zhen Minghui frowned slightly. Obviously, this disciple was on high alert, which was far from what Songjia had said. "I'll take my leave." Seeing that a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect had come to inquire, the city guard of the Sky Patrol City took the opportunity to bow his hands and say goodbye. After the city guard left, Zhen Minghui turned back and said, "We are the first team, and we just came back from Chicken Crow Mountain." "The first team?" The disciple's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, and then he said respectfully, "Uncle, please take out your token." Zhen Minghui clapped his hands and took out his token from the Imperial Thunder Sect. He said with a smile, "The leader of the first team went to the conference hall to report that we don't have the leader's token. We only have our token from the Imperial Thunder Sect." "It's okay." The disciple took the token respectfully and scanned it with his divine thought. However, the disciple was stunned and said with a smile, "Uncle Zhen, your token is definitely yours, but it doesn't have the mark of the first team. I can't let you in." "Mark? What's that?" Zhen Minghui was also stunned. He took the token and said, "I've never heard of the first team's mark." Since he knew that Zhen Minghui and the others were disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, the disciple on duty did not hide it and said with a smile, "Uncle Zhen, as long as we're disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, we must have the mark of the team's token in our token. If we don't have it, we're not disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect." "Oh my." Zhen Minghui scratched his head. "So, I can't participate in the battle now?" Dui Qiming smiled and said, "When did this rule start?" "Of course, it started as soon as we arrived at the Sky Patrol City." The disciple suddenly realized and said with a smile, "Uncle Zhen, you were sent out before you arrived at the Sky Patrol City? No wonder you're the first team. I understand. Please wait a moment, Uncle Zhen." As he spoke, the disciple turned around and said a few words to another disciple on duty. That disciple hurriedly entered the courtyard. Not long after, Zhang Yun of the Thunder Palace came out of the courtyard with a look of extreme shock and disbelief. When he saw that it was really Zhen Minghui and the others, his face was full of joy. He hurried to the front of the crowd and said with a smile, "It's really you guys. You actually escaped from death. This is beyond my expectations." Where's Cui Hongshan?" "He wouldn't." "Uncle Zhen, you know." Zhen Minghui said respectfully, "Captain Cui went to the conference hall to report. We came over first." "I see." Zhen Yun nodded and said, "The impact of the incident at Chicken Crow Mountain is really great. We were all baffled that an aristocratic family would be destroyed just like that. I still feel a little guilty during this period. I thought it was an easy task, so I sent you guys there. Who knew that it would push you into a desperate situation? Thank you for your concern, senior brother." Zhen Minghui was very grateful. "Captain Cui is very concerned about us. Under his leadership, we're safe and sound. Moreover, Captain Cui even appointed me as the vice captain, which made me a little scared." A strange look flashed in Jin Yun's eyes. He had arranged Zhen Minghui, Zhenhua, and the others to be under Cui Hongshan and sent to the first squad. Naturally, he had some plans. Of course, he did not tell Cui Hongshan about these plans. Now that he heard Zhen Minghui say it clearly, how could he not understand? Zhen Minghui was telling him that Cui Hongshan was very good, and the first squad was also very good. He would not leave the first squad. Zhenhua was only an Qi refinement disciple, but his face was calm. Obviously, he was not as panicked and embarrassed as he thought. Good. Jin Yun nodded and said, "The first squad just went out and encountered such hardships. It's really been hard on you guys. However, it's good that you guys came back safely. It's also a blessing from heaven. You guys don't know that when my Thunder Palace came to Sky Patrol City, we have already sent out more than 40 squads. Among them, 20% of the disciples were seriously injured or died. You guys were originally counted as dead, but now you can clear your name, and my Thunder Palace's first squad can be used again." "Is that so? It's only been a little over a month, and there are already so many disciples." Zhen Minghui was stunned and blurted out. However, he immediately realized that 20% was only 100 disciples. In the Battle of Rooster Crow Mountain, hundreds and thousands of cultivators had perished in an instant, so 100 disciples was really nothing. It was also really normal. If it were not for Xiao Hua's help, the 9 of them would have been included in the 100 disciples. Thinking of this, Zhen Minghui naturally wanted to turn his head, but sometimes he came to a realization and forced himself to hold back. He smiled apologetically and said, "Alas, a war. It's really a war. It's not the same as an ordinary experience." "That's right." Jin Yun nodded. "Since you guys came back safely, take a rest in my Thunder Palace's station and wait for the next battle." Then, he looked into the distance and said with a smile, "Now that my Thunder Palace's disciples have arrived at Sky Patrol City, each of them has been divided into squads. Each disciple's token has a squad mark. This is the rule of Sky Patrol City's conference hall. I'm afraid that some sword cultivator has sneaked into Sky Patrol City, so I can't disobey this order. Since Cui Hongshan is fine, wait a moment and use his captain token to make a mark on your tokens." "Yes, we understand." Everyone nodded. However, Jin Yun then reminded them about some matters in Sky Patrol City and did not ask about Chicken Crow Mountain. This made Jin Minghui somewhat puzzled, so he found an opportunity and asked, "Senior Brother Jin, Chicken Crow Mountain?" "Oh, let's not talk about Chicken Crow Mountain for the time being." Jin Yun waved his hand and said, "Since Cui Hongshan has already entered the conference hall, we'll talk about this when he comes back. Now that we're in Sky Patrol City and in the midst of a war, there are many things that need to be regulated. There are some things that you can only know in your heart and not speak blindly." -8. Chapter 2270. We understand. Zhen Minghui and the others nodded secretly. Not long after, a few Imperial Thunder Sect disciples came out from the courtyard. Many Imperial Thunder Sect disciples checked the token and entered the courtyard. They seemed to have a faint smile on their faces. Zhen Minghui was a little surprised. Just as he was about to ask, Zhenhua whispered, "Martial Uncle, Captain Cui is back." "Hee, I saw him long ago." Zhen Yun smiled and looked at Cui Hongshan, who was walking over quickly with an incredulous look on his face. Junior Cui Hongshan greets Senior Brother Zhen Yun. Cui Hongshan followed the direction pointed by the guards of Sky Patrol City and found the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. At a glance, he saw the people guarding the entrance of the encampment and Zhen Yun. "Not bad, Cui Hongshan. I didn't misjudge you," Zhen Yun said with a smile as he looked at Cui Hongshan, who was bowing. "I wouldn't dare. It's all because of Senior Brother's favor and the mutual love between junior brothers and junior sisters that we could escape this disaster." Cui Hongshan was naturally humble. After thinking for a while, he said, "However, the details of Chicken Crow Mountain are not to be spread out. Forgive me for not being able to say it clearly. Senior Brother Zhen, just take it that we left before the incident happened on Chicken Crow Mountain." "Well, of course, I know this rule." Zhen Yun nodded and said, "Take out your captain's keepsake." "Yes." Cui Hongshan complied and took out the command medallion. Soon after, Zhen Yun urged his magic power. It seemed to be a kind of strange magic that was cast on everyone's command medallion. When Xiao Hua received the token, he felt that there was a lightning bolt in the token, and there was another one. The magic power fluctuation of this one was very strange. It wasn't something that could be written using ordinary methods. "Let's go." Zhen Yun waved his hand and said, after entering the encampment, "Come to my quiet room." "Yes." At this time, everyone handed the token to the disciple on duty. After checking it, they filed in. Inside the gate was a vast courtyard with all kinds of snowy scenery and spiritual trees growing in the snowy regions. It was a scenery that the Imperial Thunder sect had never seen before. Jinyun's quiet room was under a dark plum tree. Once everyone was seated, Cui Hongshan took out Qianmo's token and handed it to Jinyun respectfully. He said, "The leader of the Imperial Thunder sect's first squad, Cui Hongshan, has led the first squad of 9 people to the Crow Rooster Mountain. Today, we have officially returned to the Sky Patrol City and handed the mission back to senior brother Jinyun." Oh. Seeing that Cui Hongshan didn't take out the token of the Chicken Crow Mountain, but the token of Qianmo, he couldn't help but be stunned. He took the token and scanned it with his divine perception. Immediately, he was overjoyed. He clapped his hands and said, "Great! You actually obtained Martial Uncle Qianmo's token. Not only did my Thunderclap Palace obtain the title of the Imperial Thunder Sect's #1 team, we even obtained the Imperial Thunder Sect's #1 commendation. Cui Hongshan, you're truly my Thunderclap Palace's lucky star." Qianmo? Xiao Hua is taken aback, and his eyes turn slightly. This guy, isn't he the disciple of the Heavenly Thunder Palace who went to the Feather Immortal Assembly together with us? How did he become a Golden Core Cultivator? However, thinking about it, this doesn't seem very possible. Perhaps this Qianmo isn't the Qianmo from before. Xiao Hua thought to himself, "Haha, I'll let senior brother Jin know." Cui Hongshan took out another item and handed it over. He said, "It's all senior brother Jin's good fortune. This disciple has also obtained the commendation from the conference hall." Oh? Jin Yun obviously didn't expect so many surprises. After thinking about it carefully, he knew that there were some secrets about the Chicken Crow Mountain. He smiled and said, "That's great. You all have made my Thunderclap Palace famous, and also brought honor to my Imperial Thunder sect. Any reward is deserved. This old man's disciple will remember your contributions. After the battle, there will be a great reward when we return to the sect." As he spoke, Zhang Yun summoned the disciple on duty and recorded everything in a jade slip. He left a copy in the Imperial Thunder sect's encampment in Sky Patrol City and passed another copy to the Imperial Thunder sect. After everything was done, a disciple handed over a storage bag. Jinyun took it and handed it over to Cui Hongshan. He said, "This is a routine reward from my Imperial Thunder sect. There should be one in the conference hall too. This is nothing. As long as you all make more contributions in the battle, my Imperial Thunder sect will definitely not forget you." Yes, this disciple understands. Cui Hongshan was a disciple of a cultivation family. His talent in this aspect was far from Xiao Hua's. He immediately patted his chest and said countless determined words, which made Xiao Hua stunned. After Cui Hongshan finished speaking, Zhang Yun nodded with satisfaction. He ordered the disciple on duty to lead Cui Hongshan and the others out and arrange a quiet room for them to rest. After waiting for Cui Hongshan and the others to leave, Zhang Yun sat on the chair again. He picked up the jade bowl and took a sip of the spirit tea. He smiled and said to himself, "Now that the first team has returned with honor, it will be easy for me to make arrangements. Who knows, I might be able to use them as a benchmark. It can also show the strength of my Thunderclap Palace." But then, he shook his head secretly. However, it's also troublesome. If they were just favored by Martial Uncle Qianmo, it would be easy to handle. But now that they have received a reward from the conference hall, the other Thunder Palace leaders will be jealous. It's impossible to blindly protect them. Maybe they will be sent out on some dangerous mission. Alas, misfortune can be a blessing in disguise. The ancients really didn't deceive us. Martial uncles, this way please. The aura refining disciple on duty led Cui Hongshan and the others to a pavilion that was hidden behind a cluster of jade-green trees and embellished with snow. With a hint of admiration in his eyes, he handed a command tablet to Cui Hongshan and said, "This is the place Martial Uncle Zhang Yun arranged for martial uncles to meditate in. Martial Uncle Cui, you only need to insert this command tablet into the captain's command tablet according to the secret method, and all the disciples inside will be able to open the restriction at the entrance." "Many thanks, Martial Nephew." Cui Hongshan took the token with a smile. The compliments he received today were far more than the compliments he received in the dozens of years since he entered the Imperial Thunder sect. However, his attitude was still humble and courteous. After the disciple left, Cui Hongshan took out a jade slip. It was given to him by Zhen Yun. After looking at it for a moment, he took out the captain's token and activated his transcendence energy. The captain's token actually emitted a burst of purple-red light. The lightning on the token seemed to be alive. It suddenly hit the token, and the token rapidly shrank under the lightning and fell on top of the captain's token. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. The token in his storage pouch was indeed emitting a strange fluctuation of transcendence energy. It actually had a slight change, just like the captain's token. Let's go. Cui Hongshan looked left and right. He waved the captain's token, and the same purple-red lightning shot out. It hit the door of the pavilion, and a burst of brilliance flashed. It was as if a dense fog had been lifted, revealing a flight of stairs that led upwards. Everyone slowly walked into the pavilion. The dense fog once again covered everything, and then it immediately became clear again. It was as if there was no restriction. Oh, there are as many as 15 quiet rooms. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over anew. He stretched and said, "You guys can discuss it later. I'm tired and want to rest more." After saying that, he walked towards the smallest quiet room in the back. Cui Hongshan immediately gave Dui Qiming a look. Dui Qiming understood and said with a smile, "Junior brother Xiao, don't be anxious. Didn't senior brother Jin say just now? We've just entered Sky Patrol City, and there are still some things that we don't know. It's not too late for you to rest after Cui Hongshan tells you what to pay attention to. What's more, you're the hero of my first squad. You can't possibly rest in the smallest quiet room." That's right, that's right. Dui Ling grabbed Xiaohua and said, "Xiaohua, let's wait until we hear about the taboos. Otherwise, you won't know how to deal with any problems you encounter." All right. Xiaohua was originally a soft-hearted person. He could ignore Cui Hongshan, but others would be embarrassed to casually refuse. Moreover, he was not familiar with Sky Patrol City, so it was harmless to listen. Everyone entered the hall. There were many chairs in 2 rows, and there was another chair at the top. Everyone was hesitant. The seats of the first team were a little troublesome. Cui Hongshan looked at Jin Minghui, and both of them smiled bitterly. They did not know where to sit. Xiaohua looked at them and knew that they did not dare to sit at the top. He took the lead and sat on the second chair on the left. He said indifferently, just like before, "We're all disciples of Shocking Thunder Palace. There's no need to be so polite." And that's great. Jin Minghui nodded and sat at the top of Xiaohua's seat. The other male disciples sat below Xiaohua, while Dui Qiming and the other disciples of Shocking Thunder Palace sat opposite them. Cui Hongshan naturally sat at the top. Once they were seated, Cui Hongshan cleared his throat and told them about the rewards in the meeting hall. He then took out a large storage bag from his chest and said with a smile, "These are the rewards we received when we entered Sky Patrol City. I've already thought about it on the way here. Since the first squad is made up of senior and junior brothers, they will be rewarded for their contributions. The senior and junior brothers who contribute the most will be rewarded the most." This time, at Chicken Crow Mountain, before Cui Hongshan could finish speaking, Xiaohua waved his hand lazily and said, "Fellow Taoist Cui, there's no need to count me in. I'm not interested in these things. You can split them yourself. Of course, if you feel that your share is too little, you can take my share for yourself. If you don't have anything else to say, I'm leaving." "You." Hearing Xiaohua's sarcastic tone, Cui Hongshan was slightly angry. Jin Minghui immediately smiled and said, "Captain Cui, junior brother Xiao is right. He obtained many sword cultivator storage bags and flying swords at Chicken Crow Mountain. The flowing cloud flying ship is also his. I'm jealous. If these rewards are given to him, I'll be the first to be unhappy." Ha ha ha. Ming Mao and the others laughed when they heard this, and the awkward atmosphere suddenly faded away. All right, since fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't want it, then it's easy. Cui Hongshan also laughed and handed the 2 storage bags to Jin Minghui. He said, "Senior brother Minghui, thank you for your hard work. There are many spirit stones and elixirs in here. Divide them into 9 portions, 1 for each of us." All right. Jin Minghui took it and looked at Dui Chiming. He smiled and said, "Junior sister Dui, if you're free, can you join me? You female cultivators are the most meticulous. That's something that we male cultivators can't compare to. Why not?" Dui Chiming agreed with a smile. Zhenhua, Ming Mao, and the others also showed joy in their eyes. Needless to say, there were definitely many things in these 2 storage bags. Yes, according to senior brother Jin Yun's jade slip, Cui Hongshan said again, when cultivating in the Sky Patrol City, the disciples of each team can rest in the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment without restrictions. If you leave the encampment, you must report to the captain. However, you can only move around in the Sky Patrol City and are strictly prohibited from leaving the city. -8. Chapter 2271. That's all? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and asked faintly, "What's the use of these?" Ignoring Xiaohua's words, Cui Hongshan continued, "Sky Patrol City is one of the 7 major cities in the country of Xi. Now that the cultivators from the 3 countries have gathered, there will be many disputes and grievances. Since you're here, you must abide by the rules of Sky Patrol City. Don't provoke the city guards. Otherwise, my Imperial Thunder Sect will not stand up for you." Hearing those words that were clearly a warning to him, Xiaohua coldly snorted and declined to comment. In addition, Sky Patrol City is the same as other major cities. There are places to refine elixirs, weapons, and talismans. If any of you need them, feel free to look for them. Cui Hongshan thought for a moment and said, "In addition, for the war, Sky Patrol City has specially set up a trading center in the center of Sky Patrol City. Disciples from various sects can go there to exchange for what they need. For example, the green crab that we obtained may be able to exchange for something useful." "Oh, that's good. Is there a specific location?" Xiaohua immediately became interested. Cui Hongshan threw a jade slip to Xiaohua and said, "The specific matters and instructions are all in there." "Humph. I knew that I would need this jade slip since I have so many storage bags on me. It seems that you have already prepared it." Xiaohua snorted and thought to himself, "Why didn't you take it out earlier? You waited until now to give it to me." But then, Cui Hongshan's words caught his attention again. "In addition, in the encampment of my Imperial Thunder Sect, there are places to refine yellow talismans, refine elixirs, and refine weapons. These are all provided by Sky Patrol City. However, to use these places, you need to pay spirit stones. The guards of these places are also the guards of Sky Patrol City. If you want to refine yellow talismans, you can go there." However, Cui Hongshan's words didn't specify the location. He also knew that these places weren't places where the disciples of the Seismic Thunder Palace and the converted Thunder Palace could go. These places were also reserved for future high-level disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. "Is there anything else?" Xiaohua had lost his patience when Cui Hongshan mentioned some precautions in Sky Patrol City. "No." Cui Hongshan glanced at Xiaohua and said, "Anyway, this Sky Patrol City is not the Imperial Thunder Sect, so we have to be careful. I don't know how long we'll be able to rest this time, but we'll have to return to the base in time for the next mission." "Got it." Xiaohua got up. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a burst of light flashing outside the hall. Moreover, there was a burst of crackling noises. "Oh, who are you?" Cui Hongshan clapped his hand, and his captain's token appeared in his hand. However, the captain's token didn't have any reaction. Clearly, Jin Yun wasn't looking for him. There must be someone outside the pavilion. The pavilion's restriction isolated divine sense, so Xiaohua didn't release his Buddhist consciousness and only speculated. "Hee, let's go and take a look. I'm afraid it's a fellow disciple who's looking for us," Zhen Minghui and the others said with a smile on their faces. Xiaohua watched as Cui Hongshan activated his magic power and opened the pavilion's restriction. Then, he turned around and walked into the quiet room inside. Where did these disciples come from? How dare they occupy this daddy's residence? Xiaohua had just turned around and walked a few steps when he heard 2 angry roars. He then looked at Cui Hongshan and the others and saw them flying back. Their bodies were flashing with light and they fell to the ground, unable to move. Clearly, they were hit by someone's magic. "Oh, interesting." Xiaohua saw that Cui Hongshan was attacked and frowned. He felt a trace of discomfort in his heart. Unconsciously, he stood still and turned around. He saw two middle-stage Foundation Establishment Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, one tall and one short, wearing the Imperial Thunder Sect's Taoist robes, walking in with gloomy expressions. They coldly looked at Dui Qiming and the others who were standing in the hall. Their faces were filled with joy, and they were somewhat at a loss. "Which Thunder Palace's disciples are you?" The tall cultivator saw that there were actually female cultivators in the courtyard and couldn't help but be stunned. However, the short cultivator's face was filled with hostility as he coldly said, "Senior Martial Brother Qian Yuan, who cares which Thunder Palace's disciples this dog couple is from? This was originally the residence of our second team. Now that we've returned, we naturally have to rest. They naturally have to scram." Scram. Immediately after, the short cultivator snorted coldly. His voice was filled with magic power and resounded in everyone's ears. Jinhua and Dui Ling both trembled and were really shocked. "Senior Martial Brothers from Heavenly Thunder Palace. We're from the first team of Imperial Thunder Sect. I'm Dui Qiming, a disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace. Those two are the captains of our first team and disciples of Heavenly Thunder Palace." Dui Qiming's expression changed slightly. She wanted to get angry, but in front of the disciples of Heavenly Thunder Palace, she still tolerated it and replied, "We've just returned to Heavenly Patrol City after completing our mission and were arranged to rest here. As for who was resting here previously, we don't know. Moreover, even if this place was used by the second team, Senior Martial Brother Qian's token is no longer useful. Presumably, this residence is no longer yours to rest in. Senior Martial Brother, please go to the master and ask him what's going on." "Hee, I don't care. This is my place to sleep. How can I let you wait here?" The short cultivator said mournfully, "Out of the 15 brothers of my second team, only the 2 of us have returned. The rest of the junior Martial brothers are buried in the snowfield. How can we let others trample on the place where they rested?" Xiaohua originally took a few steps forward and wanted to attack the two. He had seen the domineering attitude of the disciples of Heavenly Thunder Palace. Qin Dihong was even more powerful than them. Words alone wouldn't be enough to convince him. However, hearing this, Xiaohua hesitated again. Obviously, the second team was the same as them. They had just arrived at Heavenly Patrol City and were sent out. However, the outcome was different. Out of the 15 disciples of Heavenly Thunder Palace, only 2 of them returned. Naturally, Qian Yuan and this disciple's feelings could be understood. Xiaohua was unwilling to deal with them ruthlessly. "Alas, Senior Martial Brothers." Dui Qiming also smiled bitterly. "I understand your feelings. My first team is the same. We were lucky to escape with our lives and everyone was saved. Since we are all survivors of a disaster, this concubine feels that we should take everything lightly. The residence here has been arranged for my first team. Senior Martial Brothers, you should go find the disciple on duty and see if there is any solution." Dui Qiming's words were very pertinent. She didn't blame them for taking action against Cui Hongshan and Jin Minghui. Instead, she expressed a certain degree of sympathy. Of course, she also made it clear that the first team was arranged by someone else. They couldn't just go out like this. If they did, Thunderous Palace's face would be completely lost. Unexpectedly, the 2 disciples sneered. The short cultivator looked Dui Qiming up and down and said, "How can a disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace speak here? How can a woman give pointers to my matters? Besides, are you the lowly servant of that disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace? Don't the male cultivators of Heavenly Thunder Palace dare to speak?" Hearing this, Dui Qiming's face turned red. The tears in her eyes swirled and almost fell. Alas, so noisy. Xiaohua's myriad Thunder Valley's chosen wife was being bullied, so he naturally would not allow it. Walking over, he sized up the 2 of them with the same disdain and asked, "The Heavenly Thunder Palace is the head of the 8 great Thunder Palaces. Are the disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace this domineering? Is this how you spout vulgarities? Who do you think you are?" This time, it was Qian Yuan who spoke. He pointed his hand and said, "Do you believe that I will make you roll out?" What are you talking to this tramp for? Hurry up and beat them out. The short disciple said very anxiously. He flung his hand and was about to activate a spell. When Xiaohua saw this, he did not panic as they thought. He only raised his hand and touched his nose. As if he was looking at a dead person, he sighed and said, "This young master did not want to spare you, but thinking that you have a new lease on life, it is somewhat pardonable. Moreover, this young master's brother is also a direct disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace. If this young master taught you a lesson, he would be angry. This is really difficult. SK. What's so great about knowing a disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace? Now that I have already joined the war, I don't care about any direct disciple at all." The short disciple did not say his name. His expression was very arrogant. "I am also a direct disciple of Heavenly Thunder Palace." Xiaohua really did not want to do anything to them, so he still said with a smile, "If you can compare to Qian Diheng, this young master will get out of here." Qian Diheng? Qian Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. It was very obvious that the disciples of Heavenly Thunder Palace who could be sent out, even if they were surnamed Qian, were absolutely not comparable to Qian Diheng. "Senior brother, if you don't do anything, I will." The short disciple said angrily, "He only knows junior brother Qian's name. What's so great about that? Can he still fight with you and me for a quiet room?" Alas, they really don't know life from death. Xiaohua sighed and secretly said, "I'm afraid the second team's disciples were harmed by them. If these Heavenly Thunder Palace dandy habits are not eliminated, sooner or later they will die in the war. Forget it. Even if they die in the war, they can't die in this young master's hands." Thinking this, Xiaohua said with a smile, "How about this? Since the two senior brothers insist on staying in this quiet room, then my first team will naturally consider it. However, if you want us to get out of the quiet room like this, it's impossible." "What? Do you want me to throw you out?" The short disciple sneered. "There's no condition to talk about in front of me. Hee, if it's a normal time, naturally we can test the cultivation realm. Even if it's the Heavenly Thunder sect, we can also choose to compete in the Thunder field. However, since we're in the Sky Patrol City and we're facing sword cultivators, we can't have internal friction for no reason." Xiaohua said with a smile, "Therefore, this young master will make the decision. As long as the two senior brothers can take out more flying swords than this young master, my first team's disciples will immediately get out of here." Saying this, Xiaohua's face suddenly turned cold, as if there was frost hanging on it. He clapped his hands and more than 10 flying swords were thrown out. Clank, clank, clank. They fell on the ground. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian.com to vote for recommendation and monthly votes. -8. Chapter 2272. Ah? Qian Yuan's eyes swept over the flying swords, and his pupils immediately shrank as he cried out in alarm. He saw that the flying swords were all damaged. Some of them had their tips cut off, some were split open in the middle, and some had many holes. However, all of the flying swords were flowing with light and vibrant colors, as if there was a hidden brilliance that the flying swords couldn't suppress and revealed. This was obviously the flying swords cultivated by the sword cultivator's primordial spirit. The hidden brilliance was the sword cultivator's primordial spirit that hadn't been erased. The short cultivator naturally also cried out in alarm. Although he and Qian Yuan survived, they had escaped from the sword cultivator's hands. Not to mention collecting 10 flying swords, it was impossible for them to even take out one flying sword at this time. How could they compare with Xiaohua? However, the short cultivator's eyes turned slightly, and he sneered. "It's really easy to pick up so many flying swords in the middle of a battle. Why would I compare flying swords with you? Could it be that you killed all these sword cultivators?" "How could it not be?" Dui Ling was anxious. Just as he was about to speak, he was pulled back by Ming Mao, who used her hand to cover his mouth. Xiaohua didn't pay attention to them. With a wave of his hand, he collected the flying swords and coldly said, "This young master has already given you face. This is also for the sake of the more than 10 people of the second team who died unjustly. If you all continue to be long-winded, you all can't just roll out of here." At that time, Don't blame this young master for being ruthless. As he spoke, Xiao Hua waved his sleeve and attacked Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui at the same time. They didn't see any magic power fluctuations on Xiao Hua's sleeve, but when his sleeve touched the two people, they were immediately able to move. They jumped up from the ground with anger in their eyes. However, Zhen Minghui was glaring at Qin Yuan, while Cui Hongshan was glaring at Xiao Hua. Nonsense, it was clearly done with a wave of his sleeve, yet he was so long-winded. Wasn't he doing it on purpose? Seeing Cui Hongshan glaring at him, Xiao Hua didn't care. He turned around and walked towards the quiet room, as if the matter here had nothing to do with him. Senior martial brother. The short disciple was somewhat embarrassed. He saw the sword cultivator's flying swords, and then saw Xiao Hua's universe creator. Although Xiao Hua didn't really attack them, that slap on their faces, and it wasn't light at all. Xiao Hua had already said that if they continued to be long-winded, then he would make them fuck off. At that time, they wouldn't just lose face in front of the first group, they'd lose face in front of the entire lightning-controlling sect. Hee. So this junior brother is a good friend of junior brother Qiandiheng. Qian Yuan immediately cupped his hands and said, Qiandiheng is this elder brother's best friend. So we misunderstood. Hee. Not to mention other things, just by relying on junior brother Qian's face, I can't make things difficult for you. I'll go look for the disciple on duty and see what went wrong. It's good that you know. Xiao Hua had already walked for a while, but he didn't look back. He raised his voice and said, just leave by yourself. However, you've offended this Xiao's junior sister with your words just now. Just wait and see how you're going to apologize. Yes, junior sister DUI. I went a little overboard just now and my words were really unpleasant. Please forgive me. Qian Yuan cupped his hands and smiled apologetically at DUI Qiming without hesitation. DUI Qiming's face reddened, but she hesitated. Xiao Hua's words were obviously taking advantage of Cui Hongshan. She also knew that Cui Hongshan cared a lot about the identity of this senior brother. If she agreed to apologize, of course, she would admit that Xiao Hua was Cui Hongshan's senior brother. But what if she didn't agree? That was, she wouldn't accept Qian Yuan's apology. Fine. Cui Hongshan took 2 steps forward and stretched out his hand. Two senior brothers, please stand up. Since we're from the same sect, and we've all come to Sky Patrol City to fight with sword cultivators, let's put aside some common etiquette and trifles. We feel very sorry for the second group. Two senior brothers, please hurry to see your teacher and see how to arrange it. Thank you for your magnanimity, junior brother Cui. After Qian Yuan and the short disciple were defeated by Xiao Hua, they seemed to have come to their senses. They seemed to regret their impulsiveness just now, and their faces showed an apologetic expression. Let's go. I'll send you 2 out. Cui Hongshan raised his hand and pulled the 2 of them with a smile. This guy really has some tricks up his sleeve. Xiao Hua released his Buddhist sense and quietly watched. A trace of disdain appeared on his face, but there was a trace of a smile in his heart that he didn't want to know. Soon after, Cui Hongshan returned while Zhen Minghui, DUI Qimeng, and the rest discussed how to distribute the rewards. The hall was filled with cheers and laughter, and everyone was happy. Meanwhile, Xiao Hua sat cross-legged in the quiet room, tempering his spirit pills while pondering. After 3 days, Xiao Hua's heart suddenly jumped, and it seemed that a feeling came from the primordial spirit of the karma hand. Could it be that something happened? Xiao Hua's mind entered the space, and he saw that the karma hand, which originally seemed to be boundless and ethereal, was different now. The magic formula on the karma hand was extremely mysterious, and it made Xiao Hua dizzy, but the karma hand seemed to be traceable, and there was even a feeling that the karma hand was in his heart, and everything in the karma hand was everything in his heart. Moreover, the primordial spirit in the karma hand did not grow stronger under Xiao Hua's grand primordial spirit secret technique. Instead, it swam slowly in the karma hand, like a small fish swimming in the boundless Kuai-He Sea. Every time it swam, the primordial spirit would grow a little. This kind of growth seemed to be enlightenment, but it also seemed to be growth. However, this growth was too small, and only Xiao Hua's main primordial spirit could feel it. Well, something should have happened. Xiao Hua had already understood the function of the karma hand, and he thought to himself, I just don't know if it's good or bad. However, since there is no palpitation, I'm afraid there won't be any danger. Anyway, I don't go out of Sky Patrol City. What danger can there be? After thinking, Xiao Hua stood up and came out of the quiet room. As soon as he walked to the entrance, he saw Zhan was sitting cross-legged at the door. When Zhan saw Xiao Hua come out, he immediately jumped up and said with a worshipful smile, Martial Uncle Xiao, you've come out of seclusion. Where are you going? I'm not in seclusion at all. How can I come out? Xiao Hua said with a smile. Why are you sitting here instead of cultivating in the quiet room? Okay, Martial Uncle knows. I'm on duty today, so I'll stay here. If there's anything, I'll immediately report to Captain Chui. Zhanhua replied respectfully. Okay. Xiao Hua knew what Chui Hongshan meant and nodded. I'm going out for a walk. You can report to Captain Chui. Yes, I know. Zhanhua replied, Martial Uncle Xiao, go and come back early. Be careful. I heard from Captain Chui that Sky Patrol City is also a little unstable. Hee, don't worry. Xiao Hua waved his hand and walked to the front of the door. He clapped his hand and took out his token. He activated his magic power, and a small bolt of lightning shot out and hit the empty door. Just like when he came in, there was a burst of light ripples and a layer of white mist appeared, then disappeared. The door became clear again. Xiao Hua scanned it with his divine sense and stepped out of the door. After exiting the pavilion, Xiao Hua strolled towards the outskirts of the Imperial Lightning Sect's estate. However, he stopped after a few steps. He raised his head and saw an aura-refining disciple on duty passing by. Xiao Hua called out to him. Martial Uncle, what's the matter? The disciple bowed respectfully and asked, There are pill rooms, refining rooms, and other quiet rooms in our encampment, right? Where are they? Xiao Hua asked with a smile. The disciple was a little surprised and smiled apologetically. I only know the approximate location. I've never been to that place. It seems that no disciple in the sect has been there. Oh? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. He wanted to ask, but in a flash, he remembered that Chui Hongshan had said before that the disciples who came to Sky Patrol City were all disciples below the Golden Core realm. How many of them knew how to refine weapons and pills? Most of them could refine yellow talismans. However, if he wanted to refine yellow talismans himself, he might as well go to EG and exchange with spirit stones. There was no need to do it himself. Tell I the location. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and asked, Yes, I'll lead you there. The disciple was well behaved. He did not simply tell Xiao Hua the location, but instead, he led him there. The encampment of the Imperial Thunder Sect was really big. The refining room provided by Sky Patrol City was in a corner of the encampment. It covered a large area and was a huge spherical bluestone building. However, just as the disciple said, this place was deserted, and there was no trace of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Martial Uncle Xiao. The disciple pointed to the triangular door in front of the building and said, The disciples on duty in Sky Patrol City are usually in the door. If you need anything, you can go there. As long as you have the token of the Imperial Thunder Sect and the required spirit stones, you can use the pill rooms and other things inside. Okay. Xiao Hua nodded and smiled. I just want to see. If I want to refine yellow talismans myself, I might as well go to EG and exchange with spirit stones. Yes, Martial Uncle is right. The disciple was deeply touched. Junior's talisman refining technique is rusty and the grade of the yellow talismans I refine is not high. It's better to exchange directly. By the way, does Martial Uncle know where EG is? Do you need me to take you there? Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, You're on duty. I already know where EG is. I'll go out for a walk and see what I can find. Hee, I've been to EG before. There are all kinds of things. The disciple explained with a smile. It's much more interesting than the EG in Shi. And, as they spoke, the two arrived at the entrance of the encampment. Xiao Hua nodded and walked out of the courtyard. The disciple on duty just looked at him and did not pay attention. In fact, Xiao Hua did not have to go to EG. So, after leaving the encampment, he looked around and randomly chose a direction to go. The streets of Sky Patrol City were very spacious. It was the same as the 5 major cities that Xiaohua had seen before. However, the only difference was that there was snow on the ground. The snow was neither thick nor thin. It was exactly 4 or 5 fingers deep. When one stepped on it, it was just enough to cover one's feet. When he lifted his foot, there would be a clear footprint on the snowy ground. -8. Chapter 2273. Hee, but it's interesting. Xiaohua tried to step on it a few times, leaving a trail of footprints behind him. It looked quite interesting. Moreover, the falling snowflakes were very dense. It didn't take long for the footprints to be covered and disappear. However, the snow on the street didn't increase. It was still 4 or 5 fingers deep. Xiaohua's body was originally surrounded by a protective brilliance, blocking the snowflakes outside of his body. At this moment, he was in high spirits again. He actually withdrew the protective brilliance. He felt the snowflakes falling on his eyebrows and cheeks, quickly turning into water droplets. The trace of coolness coming from his face and neck actually made Xiaohua feel very close to it. Alas, I've been a cultivator for a long time. I only know how to use magic, and I've lost the fun. It's really boring. Xiaohua took a deep breath of the refreshing air. The moist, cold air entered his mouth, and he thought to himself as he looked at the many cultivators floating in the air beside him. He couldn't see their feet on the snowy ground at all. As for himself, he took one step at a time, following the direction of the street, walking forward aimlessly. Xiaohua was free and at ease after getting rid of his unruly fetters. He was like an ordinary person walking on the side of the road, releasing his mind, minding his own business. However, in the eyes of others, it was extremely strange. Many cultivators passing by him had disdain in their eyes. They thought Xiaohua's magic power was shallow, and he was unwilling to waste his magic power, which was why he did such a thing. Xiaohua naturally sensed it, but he didn't care. His understanding of the ghost cultivator Huang Yi's tens of thousands of years of suffering had gradually taken effect. Xiaohua was already indifferent to these so-called views. He had a feeling of doing things his own way, and didn't change because of the thoughts of others. He walked like this for half a day. Along the way, Xiaohua also saw many yellow talisman shops, magic tool shops, and medicinal pill shops. However, Xiaohua didn't stop. He wanted to rely on his own senses to find out what the primordial spirit in the hand of karma had discovered. However, just when he reached an intersection and was about to turn around and walk in another direction, a voice came from the opposite side. "Fellow Taoist who's walking alone, can you stop your lonely footsteps?" "Me?" Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. He raised his head and saw that there was a rather large tea house across from him. Just outside the tea house, there was a scholar who wasn't very tall. He was wearing brocade clothes and looked very delicate and pretty. He was smiling as he cupped his hands and spoke to Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked left and right. On this snowy street, he was the only one for the time being. There were no other cultivators flying by. Helpless, Xiaohua slowly walked over, cupped his hands, and said, "Fellow Taoist, may I know why you called me?" "Hee, fellow Taoist, you sure are interesting." That person's hand didn't lower, and it swayed in front of his chest a few times. In such a snowy scene, I saw fellow Taoist's winding path from afar, and it really moved my heart. It's been a long time since I've seen such an emotional scene. Therefore, I ask fellow Taoist to wait for a moment. Can you follow me to the top floor so I can sweep the bed and invite fellow Taoist? Poochie. Xiaohua immediately covered his mouth and laughed. This scholar's tone was really refined, and his words were elegant. At first, it was difficult to listen to, but after listening carefully, it was comfortable. What's so funny about fellow Taoist? Could it be that I'm presumptuous? That scholar's face was slightly red, and it was somewhat unnatural. Xiaohua said anxiously, "Fellow Taoist, please don't blame me. I've been a layman all my life, and I'm far from being as refined as fellow Taoist thinks. Just now, when I heard fellow Taoist's words, I felt somewhat ashamed of my inferiority, so I couldn't help but cover it up. How could that scholar not hear it?" His face was rather red, and he said somewhat bashfully, "I've always spoken like this. Please forgive me, fellow Taoist." Immediately, The scholar raised his eyes to look at Xiao Hua's hair and shoulders, which had long been covered by snow, and said somewhat desolately, "Alas, I emphasize refinement in speech, but I've fallen behind again. Compared to fellow Taoists' unruly behavior and sublimated spirit, I'm far inferior. This humble one's cultivation." Oh, Xiao Hua was puzzled. His primordial spirit was currently comprehending the Confucian cultivation method. Although he hadn't succeeded yet, he still knew a little about it. He had never heard of cultivating while doing things. However, Xiao Hua's eyes turned, and he said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, aren't you falling behind again by being so concerned?" Great. Hearing that, the scholar seemed to have been enlightened. He clapped his hands, and his eyes flashed with surprise. "You're indeed an extraordinary person. Please accept a bow from me." "Don't." Xiao Hua hurriedly stretched out his hand to block that scholar, and he said with a smile, "You've just awakened? Why are you leaving traces now? Isn't it better to be unruly, unrestrained, rude, and without vulgarity?" The scholar's eyes were really surprised. Not only did he fail to bow, but Xiao Hua's words really touched his heart. "Please," sure enough, the scholar didn't speak anymore, and he just raised his hand, indicating for Xiao Hua to enter the restaurant. Damn it! Xiao Hua was speechless. He originally wanted to use these words to send the scholar away. He was doing it for karma. Why would he waste time here for no reason? Seeing that the scholar actually used his own words to invite him, he could only smile bitterly. Xiao Hua turned his head to look at the snowy sky patrol city. The array in the city didn't hide the sky, and the gloomy dark clouds pressed down on the city, as if pressing down on people's hearts. The snowflakes were like the gloomy dark clouds, and even though they were pure white, they were also gloomy. This gloominess covered the entire sky patrol city, and it seemed to be endless. Forget it. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. I met this scholar for no reason, and I'm afraid he's the source of karma? Please. Thus, Xiao Hua didn't say much, and he cupped his hands, shrugged his shoulders, and the brilliance around him flickered slightly, and all the snowflakes disappeared. The tea house was very clean, and if he went in with snow, wouldn't he be chased out? Outside the tea house, Xiao Hua felt that the world was so quiet, and his mind was very pure. However, as soon as he stepped into the tea house and entered the layer of restriction, he heard a slight noise. Although this noise was not as messy as the taverns in the mortal world, Xiao Hua still frowned when he came here from a quiet place. The scholar was very sharp, and he was even more delighted when he saw Xiao Hua frowning. He whispered, "Fellow Taoist, please follow me. The people below the tea house are all ordinary people, but there's a quiet place above the tea house." As he spoke, he took a few steps forward and led Xiao Hua up the stairs of the tea house. "Ordinary people? I'm afraid I'm the most vulgar person." Xiao Hua laughed secretly and looked around. He saw that the tea house occupied a large area, and there were probably dozens of tea tables as far as his eyes could see. Now, there were people at every tea table, either sipping tea or whispering. There were all kinds of expressions. Suddenly, Xiao Hua understood. During the war, the Sky Patrol City was where the meeting hall of the three kingdoms of cultivation was located. All kinds of people gathered here to get some opportunities. Even the cultivators who did not participate in the war were willing to come here. It was nothing more than spirit stones, flying swords, and other things. After a fierce battle, as long as they could survive, they would have some gains. Of course, they could get the elixirs they wanted in the Sky Patrol City. These cultivators provided elixirs, spirit herbs, yellow talismans, and so on, which were several times the price in other places. How could there be no one in such a place? Moreover, this tea house was the gathering place of information, so there were even more people here. Fellow Taoist Kwong, 3 days ago, the meeting hall just issued a reward. It's the first reward this time. Have you heard about it? Xiao Hua just took 2 steps forward, and at a tea table next to him, an old man in the foundation establishment stage said to a thin, middle-aged cultivator, "Nonsense, of course I know about the reward 3 days ago." The thin, middle-aged cultivator was also in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. He looked disdainful, as if he was unhappy to be looked down upon. "And it's the first reward. Who in the Sky Patrol City doesn't know about it? Damn, I don't know about it. Xiao Hua sweated slightly, paying attention to what the two said. How about it? Are you interested? The old man said with a smile. The reward didn't announce the number of spirit stones. However, as far as I know, the number of spirit stones is extremely large, and there are also some magic weapons. Really? The middle-aged cultivator sucked in a breath of cold air and frowned. Just how big is it? That's a secret of the meeting hall. I don't know about it. The old man's face was full of resentment. However, this reward is jointly issued by all the cultivation sections. How can the number be small? The money grubber Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. Sigh, I'm interested. However, I don't have the guts to do so. Qin Jian is a third-grade illusory swordsman, and his attack power is comparable to a nascent soul stage cultivator. I boast that I can't compete with him even if I practice for another 100 years. The middle-aged cultivator sighed and shook his head slightly. TSK, how would you know if you don't try? The old man took a sip of spirit tea and smiled. Liaoping and the others have already gathered hundreds of people to go to the Wind Dream Mountain range 2 days ago. That guy is really bold. The middle-aged cultivator was shocked. He's only at the peak of the middle stage of the Foundation establishment stage. He's only a little higher than me, and he dares to go? Fishing in troubled waters? Who knows? If you want to go, I can invite a few more friends. The old man's voice became smaller and smaller. He seemed to be observing the middle-aged cultivator's expression. Since he heard that it was a third-grade illusory swordsman, Xiao Hua's heart immediately lost interest. He was interested in spirit stones, but he wasn't interested in a nascent soul swordsman. Fellow Taoist, this way please. The handsome scholar had already walked to the stairs and said very respectfully, Hee, this little guy. Xiao Hua raised his eyes and looked at him. He was somewhat amused in his heart. It wasn't that this scholar didn't have a cultivation base, but it was pitifully low. He was only at the 10th level of the qi refining stage. Therefore, Xiao Hua didn't take him seriously. However, when ordinary qi refining disciples saw him, they would call him senior. But this scholar directly called him fellow Taoist. However, when he thought about this scholar's somewhat pedantic way of speaking, Xiao Hua felt relieved. There were too many people in the world with different backgrounds. He himself might not be stronger than others. He also didn't have the qualifications to criticize others. -8.